This is Lauren Burke. This is Lauren Live. And of course, this is election night. This is primary night. I say in Texas, I'm not in Texas, but I'm only going to be paying attention tonight to Texas. I'm not paying attention to North Carolina or Arkansas. I might mention it when I see some results, but basically all my attention is going to Texas. And the reason all my attention is going to Texas is because of Jasmine Crockett and James Talarico. I think that this race, more than any other on the map tonight, is going to be a window into a lot of things. Perhaps the styles of the future of the Democratic Party, perhaps the way the Democrats should go against Trump. It'll be, I think, reflective too of who brings voters out, who gets voters excited or not. There is a record turnout and early vote for Texas for the Democrats, which is a very rare thing. And that has a lot of people's attention, to say the least. I do think that Texas is going to tell us a lot more than any other place. I know that North Carolina, obviously, and uh, Arkansas have primaries tonight. I won't be paying that much attention to that. If you're if you're looking for information on North Carolina, Arkansas, this is not going to be the live feed for you. So at any rate, this is going to be about Texas. There's already some activity going on with regard to polling places in Dallas, with regard to people showing up at the wrong polling location because of changes in polling places. So they did extend the hours to 9 p.m. And those, I'm told, are going to be the ballots cast between 7 and 9 will be counted as provisional ballots. But there are certain alerts that are going out with regard to people who are in Texas saying that there are some interesting moments in Dallas County with regard to poll closure times changing. This is not something that's rare. This does happen if there's any sort of problems at a polling location. This has happened before, not just in Texas, but in other places. But there are alerts going out with regard to people showing up at the polls and being told that they are at the wrong location in some way or another. And that has led to a bunch of alerts and threats of lawsuits and all sorts of things. We'll see if that gets ironed out. People may know that Dallas is, in fact, the home base, the probably the strongest location for Jasmine Crockett. So that's a good question. Why didn't Obama and Jasmine Crockett? It's interesting. I'll get to the questions in a second to chat. The questions, of course, are welcomed, whether we agree or not. And yeah, there's going to be some very interesting moments, and polling irregularities are certainly not new. I'm going to roll the open for about 30 seconds. I'll be back very shortly. Okay, so there is some voting news, I guess you could say, in Dallas and Williamson counties with regard to people being told to stay in line and being very careful about what precinct they're at. Polls do close in Texas at 7 p.m. in most locations. Uh, uh, that is central time. And so they're 6:28 their time right now. I'm on the East Coast, so for me it's 7:29 right now on the East Coast. It is March 3rd, 2026. It is primary day, and there are some irregularities in which everyone is being told to stay in line, regardless of that poll closing time. And then there's an extension of polls in terms of when they will close. They'll be extended till 9 o'clock, which is unusual in Texas. At any rate, I will say this, you know, these types of irregularities happen frequently, quite frankly. And that will be very interesting. It is happening in the area that Jasmine Crockett is said to be the strongest, which is Dallas, which is her home base. But I'm not sure that that would, it will be, hopefully, it will not have anything to do with the outcome of the election. And this thing will be decisive enough so that something like that will not be an issue. I do tend to doubt that. But of course, in life, you never know. This has been a very interesting race, to say the least. We have two up and coming Democrats in Jasmine Crockett and James Talarico. James Talarico is a state representative. Jasmine Crockett is a former state representative who is now a member of Congress. She has a very high profile from her performances in hearings up against certain officials in the Trump administration. She's been a very strong player in terms of what she has done in those hearings and really set forth kind of what I would say a way of doing business, if you will, with a lot of the people who come up from the Trump administration and can't explain his policies. And she has been extremely aggressive in playing the loyal opposition. There's been a lot of debate in the Democratic Party about what opposition looks like for the party. People want to see a fighter. People want to see somebody who really is not just talking and sending strong letters, but in fact, someone who is extremely tough on this administration. And Crockett is bringing that type of energy. Talarico is a different type of campaigner, a different type of politician. He is channeling a lot of, I would say, evangelical energy a little bit. Not just talking about God, but putting in the context of present day life and politics in a very forthright way, a way that most Democrats do not do. I think it was certainly a really interesting campaign by Talarico, and I think a lot of people like him because he does reflect something Democrats don't have, particularly on the sort of younger side of. Wow, I'm looking at, unfortunately, the list of the casualties in Iran have come out, and the photos are coming out, and it's really unbelievable. But I'll get to that soon. At any rate. Talarico is a different experience, a different type of messenger, but a very good candidate. Two very good candidates in Texas in this Texas primary. Two really good candidates. And I think one of the reasons why this is extremely exciting is that is rare. I mean, it's rare to have two really good candidates in the same primary, whether it's Republican or Democrat. Usually there's the one standout. That person typically tends to be an incumbent candidate who has done a lot of stuff before. And Crockett's been around for several cycles now in Congress and really sort of proven what she can do in Congress. Talarico is a lesser known character on the scene. And interestingly enough, though, he has brought his profile up such that he is, somebody who's considered, if he doesn't win this, if he would, whoever loses, I can't imagine that this is the last that we'll see of them, whether it's Talarico or Crockett. But he has certainly built a very nice campaign. I think he is a bit of a media darling. That probably is the case because the fact that there was a kerfuffle with the Atlantic magazine in which Crockett tossed out an Atlantic magazine writer from one of her events. What is probably lesser known, and I had a colleague of mine remind me of this, it was a pretty good point that they made today, which is that Crockett really didn't talk to too many reporters on Capitol Hill, and it's probably the same in Texas, but I don't know that. She talks to the Dallas Morning News reporter and one other reporter, Michael Jones, who has a great blog called Once Upon a Hill. And that is something that she really picks and chooses who she talks to, and what she does presentationally in hearings is what most people see. And so when the thing happened with the Atlantic reporter, I mean, even the Atlantic reporter had to admit effectively that, look, voters typically don't really care about these types of things. I think that is actually quite accurate. Looking at the chat, I'm seeing some pretty interesting things here. Bashir and Talarico in 2028. I really like Bashir. He's the governor of Kentucky. Big fan. I thought that I thought the Vice President Harris would have been good to pick him as a running mate. I thought she picked somebody that was kind of boring, and I thought Bashir was clearly an up and coming candidate, and he is expected to throw his hat in the ring for 2028. Bashir Talarico would be pretty exciting. You talk about next generation. Wow. So, Miss Sparks, yeah, let's go indeed. How are you, Miss Sparks? How's it going? So, thanks for being a joining this channel as a member. Uh, yeah, this there's going to be a lot of talk about 2028, but we are in 2026, and I was always taught in politics you take one election at a time and don't get too far ahead of yourself. This is a situation though where we are seeing the next generation of Democrats in this race in Texas tonight. There's a lot of Crockett fans out there who are showing up in the chat, but I do see some Talarico fans out there as well. He got a pretty good treatment, like I said, from the media, but I do think people are looking at the fact that there's this perception, this electability question, right? And there's always this sort of idea that, okay, well, he's more electable. I'm not sure. I mean, we did see Beto O'Rourke get within that 3-point margin, and then he did not win. So I gotta say it has been hard for Democrats, no matter who they've been and what demographic group. I think it was Ann Richards was last one, 1994 or 1992. Jesus, so 1994. It's been a while since Democrats have won statewide. And there's been some pretty conservative characters who've won in their stead, in terms of, like, the governor, and certainly Ted Cruz. So the Democratic Party really has to get their voters out to even have a shot. And lately, in these last cycles, they really haven't done too well. So, I would say that this cycle is going to be very interesting, because everybody is in fact predicting a wave election. So predicting a wave election, the Democrats is probably the best setup that they could ever have. You have Donald Trump, who has some very failing polling numbers. You have a war going on that nobody wants, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. Then you have these two new generation Democrats that are running. Forensic accounting, yes, one of my favorites. How are you doing? So I do think that this sets up, of course, really well for the Democratic Party. They would. I mean, there's a lot of talk about whether or not they can take Texas. That's an outstanding question. It's going to be very hard to answer. And I don't know that it's going to happen this cycle. I mean, I think it'd be pretty extravagant to think that that could happen. But it's one of those things, you believe it when you see it, if you see it. At any rate, let's take a look at the chat a little bit. Typically vote early, so typically this is not an issue. The poll workers tend to be very helpful. I'm just praying a Crockett will win. Yeah, it's a lot of folks in the chat that are pro Crockett, but of course, people have the right to be whoever they want. I'm not putting anybody down for voting for Talarico. Voting is a very, it's a very, like, personal thing. I mean, you vote for somebody a lot of times for reasons that may not have anything to do with logic, or it's just that, there's two candidates and you just feel a little bit better about one than the other. But I do have a lot of people in chats that I've seen, over the last few days, a lot of people saying they like both of the candidates. Not a lot of negative energy going to either one, and but a lot of people saying they really, really, really like both. It's hard when there's two really good candidates. You got to choose between two candidates. I can't stand it. Happens all the time in these primaries. But in this particular case, we got the big state of Texas. The big state of Texas is going to tell us a lot tonight. It's going to have a lot of data to look at. I don't know if the fix is in, Kevin, but there is there are some voting issues in terms of folks showing up at the wrong voting place in Dallas. They're trying to fix that by extending the time of voting, which is a classic way to fix it, because you don't want to have any sort of issues later, or people saying that they weren't able to vote, anything like that. I do think that those things will probably be ironed out, but it had something to do with polls being changed, poll locations being changed, and of Of course, what a coincidence, happens to be Dallas. Oh, gee, wow. Would have never guessed it could be Dallas. At any rate, I think they will probably figure those things out. The fact that they extended the polls by 2 hours is probably going to really help out with that. Let's see here. So, people aren't watching this county, but El Paso County was having technical issues in 80 out of, well, Jesus. Ooh, if that's accurate, that would be terrible. Forensic accountant. Yeah, people aren't watching this county, but El Paso. Somebody did mention El Paso that I was watching. It was sort of funny. I think it was Steve Kornacki. Remember that, of course, NBC is broken up off from MSNBC, so it's NBC, MS Now, and NBC. So Kornacki is actually at NBC. You might notice he did mention El Paso, and he mentioned also too that the Hispanic vote is going to play a major role in the outcome tonight, and that is putting it mildly. Putting it mildly. And I don't know that they've gotten a whole lot of attention, or we know what's going to go on with the Hispanic vote. Again, I'm not a Texas expert. I'm a Virginia, New York expert, but it doesn't take an expert to know that the Hispanic vote, the largest demographic group in the state of Texas, is going to play a big role. Many of you may know that black people, the largest amount of black folks in this country, in any state, is in Texas. If they don't show up, that's going to make a big difference. There seems to be a lot of young people in line. I just saw like some footage of just people standing in line, and I felt like, wow, there's just seems like a lot of younger people. We all know that older folks are very dependable and vote. Let's look at CBS News Texas. I believe this played this morning or a few hours ago. Just take a little peek here.
Frustration in Dallas County today due to new Election Day guidelines. There's even a call to extend voting hours in the county because so many voters are being turned away. Our Steve Pickett's live at the Oak Lawn Library with what happened here. Steve.
Well, I can tell you it has been quite the day just at this very precinct regarding this issue, Karen. Over my shoulder here at the Oak Lawn Library, you can see people are already still lining up, trying to get in. We now know as of 3:30, more than 500 people tried to vote here. 250 of them did. 250 have been sent to other locations. They cannot vote here.
Wow, it's a lot of people. 200, half of those people were sent to another voting location. Now, again, this is CBS News Texas. I think it was about 2 hours ago. And so that's a lot of people to be sent to another voting location. And yeah, Daryl, this is why you vote early. A lot of people do wait for election day. A lot of people have a quaint traditional notion. I talked to people about that also. In Virginia, we have like this really long early voting period, almost too long. It's like, 40 days or something, to the point where it is like 30 days, like a month of early voting, to the point where things have happened. People have voted early, and then something happened with one of the candidates. They got into a controversy. And it's not that a lot of people said, well, I wouldn't have voted for this person because of the controversy, but that's how long the early voting period is. It's very short in Texas, but I don't understand like why people want to wait in line, but I do talk to a lot of people who say they like the feeling of voting on election day or the specialness of voting on election day. Let's listen to a little bit more of this.
That is one of the concerns. There is now a call, as you mentioned, to extend voting hours because hundreds have apparently tried to vote at the wrong precincts. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, she was at this location today. She wants to extend the voting day, she says. She and others showed up here at this library for voting, saw that close to those post 200 people were sent away from this polling site because this is not their voting precinct. Those numbers come from precinct workers. The numbers that we have, 4 precinct locations we visited today here in the Dallas County area had a growing list of people unable to vote at those locations. You have to go to your neighborhood precinct.
Wow. So yeah, I do think that the extension of time and the conversation that happened after that will probably fix that problem, but that is a lot of people. And Lord knows we have had races that were won with less than 200 and 250 votes. Hopefully this will not be one of them, but this is certainly something that needs to be kept an eye on as the evening continues, because if the race does come down to 300 votes or 200 votes, something like that, that is going to matter. Wow, Miss Sparks. I always vote early. That sounds like a huge turnout to send many people to other precincts. Yeah, that is a lot of turnout to be sending people to other precincts. 200 people? You got to be kidding me. When I first heard that report earlier on, I have two friends that are in Texas, two of whom are, one's an attorney and one is a social media influencer. And they've been sending some messages out, heads up and alerts and stuff like that on this situation. And it looks like they were pretty freaking accurate. Apparently, there was some sort of a press conference with Allard and Jasmine Crockett on this matter. I'm not sure whether or not I can get some footage of that. Also, I can see in my chat that there is the Dallas County judge's order to extend the voting till 9 o'clock, which that's really good. Ballots cast between 7 and 9. Blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. So I mean, the authorities are taking action with regard to the situation of the confusion of the wrong of people going to the wrong precinct on a primary day. It does look like it is being handled, and it certainly did blow up. I would say somewhere around 5 o'clock, I started seeing various text messages going back and forth. And I do have some friends who are very involved in politics, and one in particular who's an attorney who is from Texas that was on that thing immedely. So we'll see how that goes. Forensic accountant, thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it. These types of things do happen, and I'm not particularly worried because I do think that that'll be figured out. The fact that they do have a judge that already has extended the voting hours by 2 hours, not just 1 hour, but 2 hours. These votes will be seen and viewed as provisional ballots. That is something to keep in mind. But if this race does come down tonight to a very close margin, that is going to be a story. It's going to be, as everybody knows, a huge story. I tend to doubt that it will, but you just never know. You just never know. Notice how you don't normally have this mess in blue fluorescence. I don't know. It's so funny. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to study that. I mean, there is probably some truth to blue and red states and having these really ridiculous voting problems. I mean, incidentally, I used to be a poll inspector in New York. This is a long time ago. You basically just sat there and made sure the machines were running right, and you got paid $100 a day. And my mother worked for a politician in New York, so I got these little patronage jobs, and that was one of them. And I just don't think that it could be something nefarious. The fact that it's Dallas of all locations, which is Jasmine Crockett's home base, is sort of an interesting thing to think about. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to study whether or not the blue states and the red states do it better. That would be an interesting thing to take a look into. Once again, forensic accountant 259. Thanks for the super chat. I am going to need a drink. I actually have some bubble tea here. I have bubble tea. This is my hard drink for the night. I'm not much of a drinker, so hopefully that'll keep me awake, or I'll put the light on a little bit hotter. But it is true. You got to keep voting and stay in line and just have some perseverance. And I do think things will work out. Again, there's a lot of people certainly on this and working on it. And once you see it in the news, it's real. In fact, let's go back to this little report that we were looking at.
You are now required to vote at that neighborhood voting precinct. Now, more than once today, voters not only found themselves searching for their political party line for voting, several were told they were at the wrong location. And party separation at the polls, they weren't happy with that either.
Yeah, it's an inconvenience because I got my card, I got my info, like I drove here, I'm ready to vote, so I should just be able to vote. Like, it's the same ballots, same process, so location shouldn't matter.
It was a little surprising to see you being faced off with the person voting opposite to you, so it was strange for sure, but I've never seen that before.
That's a big step back to me. That sounds very much of a big step back in the world. We should all be able to do the same thing in the same place regardless.
Yeah, I'm not sure why there was a change in the voting. I think the two ladies there make a good point. Why was there a change in location? whether it's a primary or a general, really, who cares? It is the same ballot. The same names are on the same ballot. So what was that? It is interesting. It'd be interesting to know. Apparently, there is some talk too of extending the voting hours in El Paso as well. That'll be interesting if they extend it in El Paso and Dallas. That'd be very interesting. Apparently, that there's going to be a decision on that. El Paso and Williamson County. I have no idea where Williamson County is, by the way. Again, you're not listening to a Texas expert. You're just listening to somebody who is listening and watching closely, monitoring the messages that I'm getting from my friends who are in Texas, two of whom are in Texas right now. And that's what I'm doing, but I myself am not in Texas. Once again, I'm on the East Coast at 7:50 p.m. and it is 6:50 p.m. Of course, Texas time. Their polls do close at 7 p.m. So in 10 minutes. But of course, we do have this news that one of their polling places confirmed Dallas County will be extended until 9 p.m. But there is talk that Williamson County and El Paso will also be extended, but that has not been confirmed. So anyway, I've got friends running around who are attorneys, so they're doing their thing. And there's always an election protection piece to these elections, whether this has been the case for a long time. And we typically don't hear too much about it, but we're at a sensitive point, as everybody knows in this country, with our democracy in the balance and the authoritarian rule of Donald Trump. So, and of course, he seized the ballots from 2020 in Fulton County, Georgia. So people are very on edge on any sort of idea that something could be fishy going on. I do tend to think that that would not be easy to pull off, but you never know. At any rate, here we go. 8 o'clock in most of the state. I have to check that. Sounds like they are trying to stop me. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't jump to that quite so quick. I guarantee you that, the way that elections are set up for any team that has a real operation, and I suspect Jasmine Crockett has a real operation, you do have people who are at each precinct from your campaign, and they're watching what's going on. They're talking to voters outside. Most campaign places have rules that you can't have paraphernalia inside the polling place. And so there's a little table or a little tent set up. I don't know what the weather is today in Texas, but typically at precincts, particularly at precincts where you're expected to do well as a candidate, you're going to have a poll worker from your campaign sitting outside to greet the voters and tell them, hey, vote for this person in a friendly way, and maybe give them a pamphlet or some sort of information about the campaign. Most campaigns do set things up like that. I suspect Crockett's has set things up like that, but they are, of course, telling people to stay in line. And there is a lot of information going back and forth with regard to poll workers and people who are informing the voters about where they need to be and what they need to do. But this is an interesting story, no doubt.
Again, just a modicum of an indication, if you will, from some of the voters today about their frustration. Some folks didn't like the fact that they had to announce if they were Republican or Democrat. And again, a number of people who simply went to one precinct thinking they could vote, they could not. Jasmine Crockett saying the effort to suppress the vote. That's what she's called regarding all of this concern. She has said she's reached out to the Dallas Democratic Party to see if you can extend voting hours on this evening. We've not heard back from Dallas County regarding that matter. Polls still open till 7 o'clock. Busy day, obviously a busy day here in Dallas County, but concerned about where you can vote.
So that was interesting.
Dylan, I respect the fact.
Hey, I watch a lot of old episodes of 90210. Don't judge me. So at any rate, that was interesting. That was an interesting report. More interesting than it should have been. So anyway, I think that certainly should be monitored. But again, the polls have been extended. As you could hear him say there, the polls do close at 7 p.m. at Central Time. So 7 p.m., of course, Texas time, which is, by the way, in 7 minutes, in 7 minutes, Central Time. But polls have been extended in Dallas County, and they may be extended in two other counties, Williamson and El Paso. we do have to see if that happens. Meanwhile, CNN is in here giving us breaking news about with regard to certain military strikes in Iran, on U.S. Military facilities, and I'm not sure whether they're reporting the older news with regard to our military personnel being killed or something new that's happening right now as we're watching this election. MS Now is not paying any attention to that, but at some point it probably will. And now MS Now is paying attention to the story we've been talking about for the last 40 minutes, which is the judge extending the Dallas County polling hours due to reports of confusion. That, friends, so they're saying the same stuff that we're talking about right now, that Dallas County, of course, is Jasmine Crockett's home base. So if there's some confusion at those polls, that's a very interesting location. And I can just tell you right now that right now the extension is Dallas only, but there is some news that a judge is being asked to extend in El Paso and Williamson County. Of course, that is not confirmed as being extended yet. That is going to require a judge's order. That has not happened yet. It has been extended in Dallas, but as I say, there's some activity with regard to a possibility of another extension, but that has not happened yet. So that right there, Dallas County is in fact Crockett's home district, and K-Boy. I love K-Boy. That's a good handle. Dallas County is Jasmine Crockett's home district. Talarico's, I believe, is Austin. And again, all eyes will be on that count. I'll tell you that much. And telling you, if it does have some sort of impact on this race, it'll be the story of the night and the story of the morning. If this race would have to be pretty close for it to have impact. Hopefully it will not, because the last thing we need is some sort of voting controversy as part of this entire thing. Man, that would really be crazy. Wouldn't surprise me, because, the news just never stops. Hopefully that will not be the case. But you just never know. You never know. In a close race, of course, a race that comes down to 200 or 300 votes, you better believe that would be an issue. And I'm sure the Crockett campaign is going to make a very big deal about, any sort of confusion that there was, or people being turned away and told to go someplace else, or any of that is going to be a very big deal, to say the least. So hopefully it will not be a thing. It will not be a thing. Oh, do we have a Kornacki cam? Oh my goodness. Look at this.
The black vote's probably going to be about 20% of all votes cast tonight, probably about 1 in 5 votes. Where is that going to be most significant? Well, I mentioned Dallas County. You're going to hear Dallas County. We got to wait till 10. There's going to be a lot of anticipation for this, because so much is going to hinge on Dallas County. That is Crockett's political base. There's a large black population. It's just huge in terms of the overall population and the vote. So this area right here, Dallas, the Metroplex, this is where Crockett really wants to run up the score here tonight. She needs to run up the score. Dallas County, but also these other counties, some of these other counties around here. Also, you're going to look in East Texas here, a lot of small towns, but there are some decent-sized, mid-sized cities here with some of the largest black populations you're going to find, at least proportionally, anywhere in the state. This is a place where Crockett's going to want to, Beaumont, for example, Beaumont, Tyler, Texarkana, places like this. This is where Crockett wants to run up the score. This is the political base of Talarico, in and around Travis County, Austin, Williamson County, around here. Just looking at the clock, 2:18. I'm going to quickly explain this, and I have to explain one other thing to you. Talarico wants to run up the score here. I think the swing here, the mystery in all the polling, is the Hispanic vote. Is that going to go for Talarico? Is it going to go for him big? Who's winning down here in Webb County? I don't know why I just changed to green. Who's winning down here in Webb County? Who's winning down here in Brownsville? Who's winning El Paso? Who's winning? Is he winning the San Antonio suburbs? Is he winning them big? There's very little black population here. So that's where, is a test for Crockett. Can she expand her appeal down there? And, for Talarico, he wants to win, and he wants to win big in those areas. I'm just looking at the clock here. I see 1:30 till poll closing. There's also something else going on tonight I want to tell you about. News Now, Kristen Welker, Hallie Jackson, they're doing a special. It's on right now. I'm going to be part of that special. How am I going to do this?
Yeah. So apparently there's a live Kornacki cam. We like that. I think it's somewhere on YouTube. I'll be looking at that all night. Okay. Let's check in on the chat. I just looked at how their Secretary of State has the polling places listed. I completely understand the confusion. Yeah, I don't understand the confusion at all. I'm sure that the Secretary of State should have probably done a better job at making sure there was no confusion. That's really a fault of the local government there, not, telling people what the heck is going on. Because you shouldn't have any confusion on election day. You just shouldn't. They had early voting. You've got time, plenty of time to tell people. There shouldn't be anything foolish going on election day. And people being turned away from the polls. That ain't cool. And so that is clearly going to be one of the stories of the evening. And hopefully it will not be a huge story of the evening. It'll be a minor story of the evening because the result will be so decisive that it won't matter. But you just never freaking know with these things. I'm telling you. But, everyone's going to be keeping an eye on that
Polls are
one.
closing here in Texas in 20 seconds.
Steve, and real quickly, we do have a updated expected vote or turnout estimates from our decision desk. So our latest numbers as our polls close coming up here is 2.44 million for Democrats and 2.34 million for Republicans.
Astronomically high turnout, if that is true. I don't know if you heard Adam. I think he's mic'd up. That would also be, if that is true, if that is what happens, that would be the first time in 24 years that Democratic turnout in a midterm primary in the state of Texas is higher than Republican turnout. But that number, I want to caution you, that's an estimate. That's an early estimate. Our decision desk makes that to sort of put a benchmark down at the start of the night that can and will be adjusted. Almost always is adjusted as the night goes on. So
one of the reasons I'm breaking in a lot on these live feeds is that copyright rules dictate that I can't just run their stuff. So I am breaking it a lot. I'm not trying to interrupt too much, but you just heard that the 2.44 million turnout on the Democratic side is a record, likely a over 20-year record. That should be unsurprising. The Democrats have two stellar candidates running in Jasmine Crockett and James Talarico, two really exciting candidates. Two younger candidates who have captured, I think, the attention of big pieces of the electorate. And also you have the controversy in the country around Donald Trump. You have his poll numbers going down. Now you have a war that has been declared on Iran by the United States and Israel over the weekend. Those are the things that will get people voting. There's no doubt about it. And on the same day as Election Day, we're finding out the soldiers who tragically lost their lives in Iran over this weekend. I mean, it just crystallizes the mind that, of course, you should be voting. Those soldiers are out there fighting so that we can vote and be on live feeds and I can talk like this and have the freedom to do all of those things. So those are things are top of mind to this electorate tonight in Texas. And this is what happens when the controversy sort of turns up. It definitely motivates people to get out and vote. Definitely, and they're voting in Texas. For sure, state government is different in urban locations, rural much more complicated in urban areas. It's confusion. It's voter. It may not be confusion. In fact, it may be voter suppression. There's definitely a possibility of that. This country has a history of voter suppression, and that does need to be considered as one of the reasons why there's, quote, confusion at the polling places. I mean, there really shouldn't be any confusion at all on an election day. I mean, there shouldn't be. So I'm just taking a peek at C-SPAN. It's talking about North Carolina race, and Roy Cooper, of course, is widely expected to win. One of the reasons I'm paying so much attention to Texas is that there really is no competition in a lot of these other places. Now the polls are closing in most of the locations in Texas. It is 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry, 7 p.m. Central in Texas right now. So the polls are closing, and there's a lot of people in line. It looks like, oof, wow.
They will still all be counted. But Hannah, if we can kind of whip around and just sort of show the lines that we're seeing here. So the line here at West Gray Multi-Service Center goes all the way back towards the baseball field. We are now getting closer to the tennis court. We are still far from the entrance, which is way ahead of us on the other side of this court. People are waiting under the alley there. And, people have been patiently waiting, as I said. We haven't seen any major technical issues throughout the day. Outside of this morning, there was a small glitch, according to the presiding judge, who told me that was resolved pretty quickly. Harris County sent out a team, and they haven't had any issues with voting machines since. Now, something that I did learn in the last hour or so is election workers tell me that they did bring in some more voting machines earlier today just to help get this line moving and flowing along. So hopefully that addition made a difference, and these people will eventually be able to cast their ballot sooner than later.
Woo, it's a lot of people in line. They do tell people to stay in line. You can see that line is long. That's Houston. That's a local station in Houston. And we should be getting some results pretty quickly here, by the way. And that is a lot of people in line. So this is, of course, going to take hours. No surprise. Texas, of course, is a big state. And there's going to be a lot of attention on certain locations like Dallas and, of course, Houston. That was a ton of people in line in that Houston shot there. Man. So we will see how that pans out. It'll take hours to get all those people voting. This is definitely a situation where, man, I mean, it's just really amazing the things that happen. A primary date's coming. Everybody knows it's March 3rd. You know it for a year in advance. And, here we go with, oh my goodness, there's problems and irregularities at the polling place. Like, it just makes no sense. I don't care what state, where it is, or anything else. They have been slammed. I mean, in fairness to the government a little bit here in Texas, they have been slammed with a lot of voters showing up, a lot more than usual. And this 2.44 number is off the chain, and it is probably a record for the Democratic side. So I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to say that it was easy, but at the same time, come on, get your act together here. This is not something that you didn't know was going to happen. So, I don't know. I mean, that is just wild. Again, everybody's paying attention to it. Everybody's looking at it. And the fact that judges looked at it already would tell you that, this is not going to be a situation where it's going to go unnoticed. Looking at the New York Times voting results here, starting to come in. This is, of course, extremely, extremely early. I wouldn't pay too much attention to this. I mean, but you do have the New York Times and several of the sites that load the voting information in from the state and get it up pretty quickly. And we're starting to see, of course, the polls have closed in Texas 7 minutes ago, starting to see some results come in. Only 8% in here. And Jasmine Crockett, 54, 45. Again, I would take this with a grain of salt. You can see on the map over here that some of the counties that have come in, Ellis, Ellis. Yeah, Ellis has come in, 55% of the vote. Tarrant, 59% of the vote. Denton, 67% of the vote has come in. So these are the counties that have reported already. Russ County. And again, it tightened up, 53-45, 9% of the vote in. So that's only one more percentage. So, the results are slowly starting to come in Texas. This screen right here is the New York Times. And I will put, if people want to enjoy that without me talking over it, I will put that link in the chat. This is the New York Times Texas voting link. And these are easy to find on the internet. You just go to Google and search for it. It's pretty easy. And of course, CNN, NBC has these links. I use the New York Times. I just find them to be a little bit faster than most. And so I'm going to use the New York Times, but you could really use anything. You could also use Texas Board of Elections. A lot of people just use the state Board of Elections from the state that they are looking at, which I totally get that as well. And you can use anything. You can really use anything you like. So, but I'm going to put the link in the chat for that one. At the same time. Yeah, it's true. They do it at the same time. How is it going to work? Are they going to wait until 9 to start running the results? No. So what they're going to do, apparently they're going to, interestingly enough, so the results, the people who are voting from 7 to 9 will be provisional ballots. Usually provisional ballots are counted the next day. That's usually been my observation. So everybody who voted from 7 to 9 would be counted the next day. I don't know that they're going to do it that way. I'll believe it when I see it, because people want these results right now tonight and want to wait the next day. And again, in a blowout situation, if this was a blowout election, you wouldn't really need or worry about the provisionals that much, frankly. I mean, if somebody wins by, 30,000, 40,000 votes, then, that's not going to necessarily matter. But they're not going to wait till 9 o'clock to start running the results. As you can see, Daryl, the results coming in right now. And, believe me, that if you want to play around and get people crazy, wait around till 9 o'clock or wait around till 2 hours from the time you're supposed to be counting the ballots. People will go absolutely crazy, as they should, because it just drives people nuts when there's delays. And then in that space of the delay, everyone's like, okay, wait a minute, why is there a delay? And then that invites all sorts of conspiracy theories as well. Have to wait until the general Dems need to vote early. No, Governor Abbott is practicing. Mail-in ballots. I don't know anything about mail-in ballots in Texas. If anybody out there is educated about mail-in ballots in Texas, and educate me. I'm not really an expert on that in terms of mail-in ballots in Texas. I don't know what their mail-in ballot laws are. But we got a Talarico fan in there. All right, S.R. Burry. Talarico fan. Look at these senators. She needs a complete chance with an entire year like everybody else. She could almost half the vote. So many. So we got some results coming in. Let me get back. Let me look closely at the New York Times page here. So it's only 9% in. Again, this is very, very early. And Crockett is up, but again, that 9% is not the base of support for Talarico is around that Austin area. So Austin has not reported, so you could have some flip-flopping back and forth. It's only 9% reporting, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to these early results, although they are fun to look at. I mean, it's just extremely early. It's not really something to be paid that much attention to at this early hour. We're only 11 minutes into the polls closing. Let me see if I can find if this is live. I think it is.
We have seen a steady flow of people all throughout the day. The last 2 hours or so definitely ramped up. But again, if you made it by 7 p.m., you can cast your ballot, so you don't have to worry. We, of course, will continue to stay out here and monitor things and keep you posted.
Yeah. So, I mean, man, this looks like a younger group out there, too, to me.
That just all developed over this weekend, right? On Saturday.
So this is a live, they're just doing like a live thing at Houston's station, KHOU 11. Yeah, just taking a look. Let's see if I'm waiting for C-SPAN to talk about Texas, but they're not really. Are they just doing? They seem like they're doing North Carolina, Arkansas, not too much Texas. So I don't know why that is, but I'm trying to find somebody that's really throwing up some Texas stuff. Let's see. There's a debate. Yeah. So let's take a look. Let's go back to the New York Times. The results, again, only 9% in, 53-45. 53-45, Crockett. Again, this is going to take a while. So this is going to take a little bit of time. Something I have to just sort of check in on every now and then. We've got Kornacki with the live feed from Steve Kornacki. Let's see what's going on here.
What it looks like. Let's see what else we have here. Kaufman County, this is a much smaller one here. Again, I think the benchmark here I have for Crockett is 65. You can see she's running at 71. Take a look at Ellis County here. The benchmark I have for Crockett is 68. She's running at 7. So you can see she's pretty close to her numbers here. A little bit not in Denton County, but let's see. This is a small sample we're looking at right here. But that's what we're going to be doing as these votes come in tonight in this Democratic race. Again, let's just sort of reset statewide. We'll be giving you these benchmarks. But again, the expectation is for the best numbers Crockett's going to get are going to be in this area. Best numbers she's going to get are going to be in this area. These are going to be sort of the two sweet spots for her on the map. A lot of sort of suspense here about what it's going to look like in Bexar County down in South Texas, where the Hispanic vote is a much bigger factor here. And this is going to be right here around Austin. This is going to be Talarico's, where he runs up the score. And I think, right here, we talked about a quarter of the vote coming out of the greater Houston area. I think there's a lot of suspense here about what it's going to look like. This county, Harris County.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, I don't think anyone knows about South Texas. I mean, that is going to be that's going to be a mystery. That's going to be very interesting to watch that come in. And when we look at the entire map of Texas, need to make some coffee. May take some. Yeah, I wish I could make some coffee. I've got some bubble tea here, but I wish I gotta get some coffee as well. I miss Sparks. Let's do the coffee. Yeah, I mean, I should order some coffee in here. At any rate, this is going to take a while. Crockett, of course, I don't know that anybody campaigned today. Most people don't campaign on election day. A lot of times they just relax. They go vote, and then they do sort of a media appearance when they go vote. Once again, we have in Austin, Texas, MSNBC, the former MSNBC, MS Now, is interviewing folks. I think it's two Hispanic guys. Let's take a look at this. I got to take a look at who they're voting for, because this is, of course, the thing that.
Yeah, I saw that you saw from Texas Tech, right? It doesn't matter what cause you're from. Young people are getting targeted by what's going on politically. So it's our right to, have a part in this and actually do something about it.
I'm so glad that you're here, and it's really nice to meet you. I also want to introduce you, Rachel, to Marcia. Come in here, Marcia, because Marcia's holding it down. She works for Travis County Elections. Marcia is the person who is enforcing the end of the line.
Oh my gosh, they've got somebody enforcing the end of the line in Harris County in Austin, which should be Talarico's base. And interestingly enough, that woman from Harris County she has to enforce the end of the line. A ton of people in line. And once again, the people look to me like they're pretty young. This is seemingly a young turnout out there, it would seem to me. It's just a very interesting thing. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, Talarico is expected to do really well in Austin, but a lot of first-time voters coming out. That's. Wow. So there's a lot of talk about voters coming out for the first time and this being their first vote. University of Texas, a lot of young people around on that line voting. It's just interesting. I'm just taking a peek here at MS Now. They're doing some man on the street interviews, and I'm sure these folks are probably all over the place. Some are probably Crockett, some are probably Talarico, but it is interesting to see there's a ton of young people in line. It sort of explains why we see so many young people in the line. And yeah, it would make sense, obviously, college town. Crockett for the win. So, I will say that, yeah, this is going to be interesting to see what Austin does. That is expected. Austin is expected to do well for Talarico. He's expected to do really well in Austin, but again, you don't know until you get the results in. Let me see here. Let's go back to the New York Times, to the results, because this night is about the results at the end of the day. 53-45 with 9% in. Again, that would probably change and flip back and forth. I just think that's going to flip back and forth. We're going to see a bunch of results. Texas is so big. Now we have 12%. We went from 12% to 9% to 12% with Crockett, because is that Houston? It's not Houston that reported. So Harris County is not reported yet. Fort Bend County did, though. And Crockett, wow, she's up 34-20, and that 34,000 to his 20,000, which is 60-36 in Fort Bend County. Wow. So anyway, with 12% of the votes in Texas, 55-43 Crockett. Again, it's only 12%. Just keep in mind, it's only 12%. Some of the strongholds for Talarico have not reported, the biggest stronghold being Austin. So once again, I would not get totally crazy about those results because only 12% in. I've seen those types of things flip back and forth or change. That's not a big enough sampling size to be decisive. New York City is behind 1 hour too because of technical. Oh my goodness, you're kidding me. Oh man, Becky. If North Carolina is behind an hour or two for technical issues, that is crazy. Can we run an election? This is when we need the Jimmy Carters and the late now Jesse Jackson seniors of the world to come in and do these elections. Usually have to go to other countries. Jimmy Carter would have to go to other countries to fix their elections. Maybe we need another Jimmy Carter to fix them here. So all these irregularities and problems. We've got all this technology in the country. And it's amazing how rough the elections can be sometime. Oh my goodness. It is wild. San Antonio and Austin. Calcium, Talarico at 92%, Crockett at 9. Texas is closed, but Arkansas is still open. I didn't think about that. Texas is closed, but Arkansas is still open? I didn't think about that. Yeah, so it's craziness. So I'm just gonna take a peek at the New York Times again. Only 12% in, 55-43. Again, not much of the state in. They have the map. You can see that there's see if I can get a little bigger here. Yeah, that map is not filled in, of course. Most of it is gray, so it's going to take a little bit of time and probably another good hour. We should know something. This is a good time to make the coffee, Miss Sparks. This is a good time to make the coffee because this is going to be a little bit of break here. Get Trump at the line. Middle East, you want to talk about peace? That is true. We do need Carter in the Middle East. Oh man, those are the days when presidents were doing peace treaties. Oh goodness, war is terrible. War is terrible. We should have our thoughts and prayers into the. We should think about the fact that there's some families out there who are going to be missing somebody. 6 military members who were killed in Iran over this weekend, and their names were released tonight, which is extremely freaking sad. It's crazy that this should happen, and realize that those families, the whole thing, and in those families, their situation is going to be completely changed forever because those folks are going to be missing. And finally, the Pentagon tonight did release their names of the 6 Americans and their photos of the 6 Americans who were killed in Iran over the weekend. There was, photos finally came out, and there's a group here from Iowa. It's just terrible stuff. So this was like one of these things that really, really is not something that people, generally speaking, want to be reading about and finding out about. Pentagon names of 6 Americans. It seems like Iowa is one of the places they came from. There's going to be a lot of questions as to why our military people are over there. I know that there are 6 who lost their lives, but unfortunately, we only have 4. It was 4 of them. I can tell you right now that, man, that is that is going to be. That's going to be something that's going to be on the minds of a lot of people. You can absolutely believe it. Okay, so as the evening goes on, keep in mind there is a war going on, and you wonder how much that's going to influence the situation. I was in the U.S. Capitol today when Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, briefed members of Congress, Senate, and the House, and nobody's really satisfied. Nobody seems particularly happy, and this is going to be a situation that's going to get, I think, into the minds of a lot of these voters standing in line in Texas and places like Austin and Houston. Whether or not it changes their vote one way or the other, I don't know if I'd go that far. I do think it spurs people to come out and vote, though. Crockett and Talarico have very similar views on a great many things. They just have different styles, but I think that they're pretty close on policy. It's going to be interesting to see if in fact, when we ask the voters in line what their issues are and what they're thinking about, is the Iran war going to be one of those things? Um, Again, a lot of Jasmine Crockett fans out there, including Cecilia Davis. Trump is putting our troops' lives in jeopardy. They are being sacrificed for him to control the. I actually think this was all about the Epstein files. The Epstein files, Lori, was starting to get a little bit hot, and all of a sudden there's a war being declared. It just never fails. I just can't believe that it's just an amazing coincidence. Looks like Talarico's won Denton County, and it seems like yeah, he won Denton County. Well, at any rate, I'll just say that it's amazing how wars just happen to happen right around a controversy. Texas stay red, no Crockett. She doesn't care and she lies. All right. Well, I don't know if she doesn't care if she lies, but she definitely cares. I'm gonna say that. She definitely freaking cares. But there's a lot of Crockett fans out there. There's some folks out there not Crockett fans, and I see a few Talarico fans in there. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome tonight. It's going to be a very interesting evening for the Democratic Party, as I say. Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties are going to have to really be looked into tonight at some of these situations with regard to what's going on and what's delaying the election. And it's just this idea that you know about this primary so far ahead, and here we are, and then there's all these sort of things that are popping up as problems. Still only 12% of the vote in, by the way, with Crockett ahead 53-44. Of course, most of the map is not filled in. Talarico did win Denton, and he won Galveston. Yeah, look at that. So show all the counties. Let's see if we can see. Tarrant. Wow, she's plus 12 in Tarrant. Denton, he's plus 11. Fort Bend, she's plus 24. Oof. Let's see. Rusk, wow, it's interesting. They've got, but let's see, Talarico won Denton, Montag, Nunez, Hood, and Kendall. These are not biggies, Kendall and Hood, but they haven't completely reported everything. It's just like 53% of the vote and 45% of the vote. Yeah, okay, so New York Times doing a very good comprehensive job here of keeping us up to date, but there's only 12% who have reported. It is 7:27 in Texas, only about 30 minutes after the polls have closed. So there is going to be certainly about an hour or so where we'll have to just sit and wait for results. And of course, that's just how it is on any election night. Again, I'm not paying too much attention to North Carolina, Arkansas, but at some point we get news out of there. It's sort of an interesting congressional primary in North Carolina. The governor's race and the governor's primary is really sort of a slam shut done deal. There's really not too much to say about that. Roy Cooper is expected to do quite well, not only in this moment in the primary, but of course in the general. He is an unbelievably strong candidate who has never lost an election. So he is expected to be a pickup for the Democratic Party. That would be something that went from Republican to Democrat in the Senate if Roy Cooper can take that seat in North Carolina in the U.S. Senate. That is expected to happen. At any rate, let's go back to the map here and take a look at the New York Times. Still only 12% in, so I'm going to let that sit for a second and take a look at Kornacki Cam. I don't know whether Kornacki. No, he is. He is.
Small black populations. They have the white populations can be higher here than statewide, and there are very large Hispanic populations there tend to be. So these are areas where Talarico, again, based on those benchmarks we're talking about, Talarico wants to be winning. He wants to be winning big down here. Now, what's the benchmark I had for him here in Corpus Christi? I gave him a benchmark of 65% here. So he's running at 62.2% in the early vote. So he's pretty much, and again, these benchmarks, these are pretty rough. It's just to give you an idea here, I think, of where the bar kind of is for each candidate. So he's kind of running at expectations right here in the early vote. And now let's see, as the same day comes in, when the same day comes in, does he sustain that? Does he go north of that? Does he come south of that? But he wants to be in the mid 60s in a place like Corpus Christi. And that is going to be true for him, roughly speaking, throughout, South Texas, Bexar County. I think Bexar County, I have him for some massive number here. Yeah, I mean, again, you look at the major population centers, the major cities here in Texas, the black population in Bexar County is single digits. It's like 7%. Larger white population, very large Hispanic population. So again, based on what you're seeing here, I think you'd expect and you'd want to see if you're Talarico, you really would need to see if you're Talarico, something in the mid 60s, probably low to mid 60s coming out of Bexar County when we get that. When did we get Bexar?
So yeah, the good thing about Kornacki is that he figures out the percentages of what each candidate needs to win. And he effectively is figuring out a win number for the candidate when he's doing that. It's a really good idea because you can kind of see what they would have to do. And when they start getting underneath the number, of course, that they need to have to win, that's a big red flag that it's not going to be a good night.
And balances, and we also have the Secretary of State here to observe the work that we are doing, and we work together as a partner. Although I am the chief election official of Harris County, so those are some of the elements. I don't necessarily call them discrepancies unless an election worker leaves and go get Whataburger before reporting to us, which could happen. But we do encourage them to get here in a timely manner.
So election official in Harris taking some questions live on television. And we just tightened up here with 14% in 51-47. 51-47. It went from 55, was it 54-43? And now Crockett is 51-47. 14% of the vote in. Once again, this could flip, this could change during the evening, go back and forth. You're going to see some definite changes and some flips, and there's only 14% reporting. So that is going to be changing as the night goes on. You can see right here with 14% reporting, it is 51-47 Crockett, but that just tightened up. Something just reported, was it Austin? Hayes County, it's a suburb of Austin. Talarico won by a lot. It's like 74-26 with like, I'm trying to see what was the percentage of the vote that came in? 63 in. So he's winning that county. That's right outside of Austin. And let me see, something near San Antonio here. He won that. Not a whole lot of voters, but still. You can see MSNBC, the former MSNBC is looking at the same thing I'm looking at right now. Some Talarico areas just reported and brought it to 51-47. And that's why it's got a little closer there. No surprise. Again, we're going to have that happen a few times. That is not surprising, I don't think. Let me see if Crockett's doing anything. I suspect none of the candidates are going to be doing anything until the moment comes when they have to make an announcement or, come to their celebration night event or whatever. We'll see how that pans out. This is going to be a fairly late night, but not a crazy late night, because the Texas polls close at 7, which is great. I mean, man, that is actually fairly early. So we're going to know something, I suspect, in the next, I would say 40 minutes or so. where you kind of start getting a really, really solid view of what the results, what the final results might be. Um, oh, leave your sister alone. Wow, thanks for dropping my derogatory comment. Your derogatory comment. Yeah. Wake up, Crockett. Yeah, there's a lot of folks with Crockett. Certainly a lot of folks with Talarico out there as well. And the true transfer is factual. She actually is factual. She is actually very factual in her presentations in a lot of these hearings that you have, congressional hearings. It is pretty amazing. The dress down that she can give a lot of these Trump administration officials, and that's why I think that the party frankly got very tired of dealing with her. They were like, "Yeah, we don't really want to deal with this person too much. Let's make it very difficult for her to win her seat back," which is what they did, and then they really destroyed her congressional seat, which is why she ended up running for Senate in the first place. So there was that. It's so funny. This idea that North Carolina is also delayed is just absolutely unbelievable. But at any rate, that's big part of the reason why she ended up running for the Senate. That was certainly not. I don't know that that was in her plan until it was happening, and then there you were. She's running for the Senate. See what Vote Texas has to say for itself. What's this? What's going on here? We got it looks like a local station is KVUE. Look at this. See what they've got going on.
But this is why when we talk about, people are like, why does money matter? And you talk about war chest and why is that important? This is why this is important. He loaned his campaign $11 million. He has been running the ads. You've seen the ads.
I've seen the ads.
MAGA Mays Middleton, right? That's what all these ads are. And it's paying off. The name recognition, you don't have it, but when you spend enough money and you tell enough people that name, they remember. They remember the messages. And so this cannot be making the congressman happy right now to be looking at this, but it's early.
But let me ask you something. Okay, we're not
Chip Roy. Look at the Chip Roy's primary. I'm not sure that's gonna. Well, we'll see. You get some surprises. You get these elections, you get surprises during the night, but that's another thing. We're talking about Crockett, Talarico, Crockett, Talarico, Crockett, Talarico. That's what this evening is going to be about, at least for my live feed. Obviously, there are a lot of other people out there doing a lot of other things, focused on a lot of other things. I know the North Carolina people focused on their stuff, and I totally get it, but I am going to be focused on Texas. So at any rate, there's a lot of really interesting races tonight. Let me see. Let's look at the chat for just 1 second here. Yeah, I mean, we just here it is. This is the part of the evening where we have to really sort of watch and look and wait to see what's going on. Still have this. Is this Harris County official still talking to the media? Let's see. She might not be. Let me hit the refresh. Yeah, this is just commercial here. I'm going into commercial. Okay. Yeah. So the Harris County official talking to the media, likely about some of these voting delays and irregularities, and not too much of a surprise there. And people see on the news that there's some delay or some problem or some issue. They're definitely going to go ahead and they're definitely going to go ahead and do their thing. Sorry for the delay. I'm just reading my text messages, and friend of a friend had a stroke. This never a dull moment. That's amazing. Unbelievable. At any rate, though, in Texas, the polls have been closed for 40 minutes. The results coming in is only 14% of the vote that has reported. And a lot going on in Texas. And of course, like I said, I'm only paying attention to Texas. I'm sure Kornaki's paying attention to everybody. I'm only paying attention to Texas. That's my thing. There's a lot lot of stuff going on in terms of the other states involved, Arkansas, and of course, North Carolina. But for me, I'm going to be paying only attention only to Texas. And we're just watching the board here, the New York Times. Share this tab instead. And we got some more numbers in here. 24% of the vote, 24% of the vote, Crockett 51, Talarico 47. And it looks like Talarico is closing the gap here to me. I mean, every time we get a little report, even though there's a lot of these counties don't have tons and tons of votes, he's winning like the southern part of the state of Texas, Cameron County. Yeah, I mean, he's closing the gap a little bit. Not a total, not huge counties down here in terms of what they're reporting, but he's still winning them, and that's going to count. That's going to close the gap. There's no doubt about it. And they're starting to slowly come in. Here comes, it looks like another tranche. There's 24% of the vote. And again, 51-47. The biggie for him that I'm sort of sitting is Travis. That is expected to be won by Talarico, and I'm trying to figure out if all of her stuff has come in. Dallas County has not reported yet. That should be big for Crockett. Once again, 24% of the vote has come in. 51-47 Crockett, but again, it's narrowing. It's certainly narrowing because you can see that it keeps getting closer and closer here. Again, the big two tranches for that we're really, sort of waiting for here is Dallas. Of course, there was all this problems with the delays, and now the Dallas County, the thing is going to be open until 9:00, and now we got to wait. And so, who knows how that's going to play out. That's probably going to take a while to get the results. Hopefully, God dog it. If this thing comes down to that, I'm going to be ticked off. And I'm not going to be the only one ticked off. It just, this is good news for Democrats. Have this level of excitement and all these people coming out. Greg, yeah, you're right. It's good news for Democrats just to see the level of enthusiasm, whether it's for Crockett or Talarico. It is good news for Democrats. I mean, because usually Texas is not a state where they have a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of turnout, a lot of stuff happening. That's definitely not the case. I see Crockett went up by 30% reporting, 52-46, 52-46, Talarico. So he pulled ahead by about, it looks like 40-some thousand votes. Let me see what reported that made that happen. Oh, Austin. Yeah, okay. So Travis County, Austin reported, and let me see what the percentage is. Looks like 60% of the vote in. So there's gonna be more added to that total. So right now Talarico is ahead 52-46 with 30% of the vote in. The big thing for her that's still out is Dallas County. As most everyone has heard tonight, there's some, quote, confusion and irregularities and delays. And that confusion and irregularities and delays is probably going to keep everybody up all freaking night. As you can see, it's 45 minutes into election night for Texas. The polls closed 45 minutes ago. People are definitely... Talarico has taken the lead, correct. People are definitely wanting to see what goes on. Wait a minute. What does that say? Yeah, so 31% in. Talarico is ahead 52-46. The two areas that she is expected to do really well in, of course, is, Dallas, which I don't think that's in. I'm looking. Yeah, that's not completely in yet. Dallas County is not completely in. So that's going to take a while. That's going to take a while because of this delay, confusion, provisional ballot issue, and then the polls are open until 9 and all that. That's just going to take a while. So it could get close. So 52-46 Talarico right now with 31% reporting. And then we have this part of Texas. Yeah, this part of Texas where I do think it looks like Talarico is really doing well in this section. Again, not a whole lot of votes, not a ton of votes, but again, in a close race, it's going to matter. It's all going to matter because it always does all matter. 31% of the vote in. Talarico is ahead 52-46. So that the results are starting to come in a little bit hotter now. I do think we should have a result here by about 8:30 Texas time, 8:30 Central, and 9:30 Eastern. Should have a really good idea of what's going on by about 9:30 Eastern. We'll see. By 9, he will call the race. When we'll see. Yeah, somewhere in maybe a little earlier. Maybe it could be 9 o'clock, but I would say 9:30. It is about to update. Okay, well, let me go take a hard look at that if it's about to update. 31%. 31% of the vote. Once you start getting to about like 45% of the vote, something like that, you start being able to figure out who's going to win mathematically, and then AP will call it.
Caution you that 31% of the vote is in right now, and what we still don't have is Dallas County, which is going to be probably the biggest get for Jasmine Crockett tonight. We also don't have the Rio Grande Valley, which is probably going to be a very big get for Talarico. If you look at Brownsville, Cameron County, and you see that.
Yeah, she's got to run up Dallas County, and wow, what a coincidence! It's Dallas County that's going to be delayed all night. Wow, isn't that amazing? Of all the counties in Texas, the one that is her home base and everything else is the one that's delayed. Yeah, that's always good. Oh man, Talarico is that false televangelist that uses religion to get his point across. Has always been sitting on business. Yeah, definitely. Talarico's an interesting communicator. We'll see. I mean, gosh, it should really be known by about 9:30. About 9:30. There should be some definitive results by then. No doubt about it. But man, just God, this thing with the delay and the provisionals and all this is actually kind of annoying, to say the least. I mean, because this could take days if you get some irregularity going back and forth in court, or if it gets really, really, really close. I mean, it's just one of these things you don't really want to hear about. You do want the results on the night of the election, big time. But yeah, somebody should be able to call it by 9:30, we think. It's sort of unknown as to how they're going to handle Dallas County. Are we going to get any sort of announcement tonight? I suspect we will, but again, the polls don't close till 9 o'clock. So the question is, how's that going to work?
This area and this area is not heavily populated. The population centers in Texas are over here, and that's starting to fill out.
All right, very good. We have had characterizations of those Senate primaries in North Carolina on both the Democratic side, Roy Cooper, and
yeah, I'm just sort of taking a peek here. Should take a peek at CNN, but I don't feel like changing the channel right now. Might not know until midnight. Boy, I hope that's wrong. Wendell, yeah, I hope that's wrong. I mean, probably right. It's probably correct. Just sit here for hours. Sometimes it depends on what state. Some states are really, really fast, and some states you do have to sit around and wait. This is obviously Texas is a big state. Their polls close pretty early. At 7 o'clock, poll closes a really big advantage. This just gives everybody time to count and do their thing. But oh man, it's nothing worse than have to wait till 9 o'clock at night to see what's going on. I mean, it's just kind of like Who the heck wants to wait till 9 o'clock? Okay, now we have another update. So 35% of the vote in. Talarico still ahead, 52-46. 52-46. Not a big change there. Something must have come in. Let me just see if Austin, because that's the place where I got people texting me, of course. And they're texting the same news that we're talking about right now. Travis County, Burnett County. Not a ton of votes, but certainly he's ahead. He's definitely ahead. She has to run up the score in Dallas and a few of these other areas. And believe me, I'm not yawning because I'm bored. I'm just yawning because I'm tired. So she's wow, yeah. This is gonna be probably an all-night affair. 35% of voting. Yeah, so somewhere around the area of like 40-50%, maybe more than that. Maybe more than that. I don't know. Because if this thing is close, he's right now ahead 52-46. What is that? Mm. She definitely ran a race that was certainly wow, looks like there's gonna be a runoff on the Republican side. It's hard to tell. Well, we won't know. That's only 10% of votes in. 47-36. Yeah, that's old. That's gotta be an old screen, right? Is it 52-47, 43, 40? Yeah. Looks like the Republican is not gonna make it to 50%. Of course, you got 3 people in the race, so that's not that surprising. Let's go back to Talarico and Crockett. 35% of the vote in, 52-46. Let's let that sit for just a second. Oh man, that is Wesley Hunt is at 30%. He is hurting John Cornyn. There's no doubt about that. As third party candidates always hurt the incumbent. Never fails. Yeah, that's definitely true. It just never fails. I'm surprised Cornyn didn't try to get Wesley Hunt out of there in some way and try to convince him to maybe, drop out or do something, because it's so clear that that's what was going to happen with that. And when Trump came into Texas and then didn't endorse anybody, it was a little bit surprising for everybody. It was kind of like, really, you're not going to try to make a choice in this, and then he didn't. And people just, things just happen. Let me see here. Yeah, let's not reload the site. Reload the site. I'll be cut off. So Talarico is ahead again, 52-46, with 35% of the vote in. Only 35% of the vote in. Again, I do have a feeling that by 9:30, there should be a feeling of decisiveness by 9:30, in my view. Talarico does have an election night live screen up on his YouTube account. And so clearly there's probably going to be some sort of I would say some sort of a live feed of some type. I'm trying to find one for Crockett, and I can't find one. I just cannot. Can't find one. Not to say it doesn't exist. It's out there someplace in all it's all in all likelihood, but I can't find it. But Talarico does have like a page up for a live feed. Let's turn Texas into California. I don't know if anybody wants to turn Texas into California. Dallas County is laid. Who is that better for? Probably Talarico. Yeah, if the Dallas count is delayed, who is that better for? I suspect that if the Dallas count is delayed, it's better for Talarico. Already we got Roy Cooper announcing in North Carolina. Well, I don't even know why we're even paying any attention to that. Everybody knew Roy Cooper was going to win that. Okay, so let's go around and see what everybody's talking about. Let's see. Yeah, Jasmine Crockett's they haven't really updated since they had this the other day. They had an
Keep
interview.
this energy and
Mm.
some.
You look ahead to November already, obviously, the general election, and there are critics, as you know, who are arguing that even if you can win the primary, you can't win in the general. They've got Time Magazine asking one Republican lawmaker if he feared you or James Talarico, and he was blunt, saying she can't win. He can. What's your response to this assumption that you have a shortcoming in that area?
I mean, listen, I don't know who telegraphs who it is that they want to go against. I really don't. All I can tell you is that right now the governor of Texas is spending over $3 million specifically against me running ads. So it doesn't sound like they want to go against me, but I do also know that the Republicans are very good at throwing bombs. They did the exact same thing when they decided to tell all the Democrats that, oh, Joe Biden is old and oh, he is senile. So therefore you guys need to get rid of Joe Biden.
Interesting. If Talarico wins, that means that this turnout may have been the excitement around Talarico, not Crockett, or both. But it is, or the energy behind trying to get Donald Trump out of office could have been that as well. It's interesting because that turnout number is a record number for the Democrats in Texas. And something had to have had that happen. I mean, when you have a competitive race, period, that would be the case. But I would typically think it would be one candidate in particular that makes people really want to get excited and come out. And my view of that was probably that it was Crockett, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was Talarico. Texas independents and Christians will not vote for Crockett. You honestly think vote for Texas? People are funny. Why isn't she not up early enough to? I don't know. That's a good question. I want to pay taxes for my own drive. Yeah, right. Like electability. There's a lot of electability questions around Crockett. I'm not sure. I mean, again, nobody said that about Beto O'Rourke, and then he freaking loses. Like, just absolutely loses. I mean, every Democrat has lost no matter what. It's just the way it's been. I'm not sure the electability issue is a thing because just every Democrat's been losing for like 30 years. And to me, I don't know that we talk about electability so much when it is a white male candidate. It's just not talking. It's like assume that he's just electable, and that's just what it is. I think Dallas in. No, Dallas County's not in. It's just not in. But again, 35% of the vote in hasn't been a change in a few good minutes here. She's about 45,000 votes down, 40,000 votes down. And again, she'd have to really run up the score in some of these areas to overtake him at 52-46. So let me see. Crockett is terrible. Ask the people in her district. Interestingly enough, there's not been a lot of negative energy about Crockett in her district. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. Science for those I'll make a point. Well, yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think her constituents tend to like her. It's funny. I was in the U.S. Capitol one day a few months ago, and there was a group of constituents of Crockett standing in the Capitol right outside the door of the House chamber, and they seemed to be pretty enthusiastic about her. They just were enthusiastic about her. I mean, they definitely came up and obviously came in from Texas. Dallas County will return this primary, and it's going to really be, boy, she's going to have to really run it up for it to, be a thing, which it is a thing. Still at 35% in, 52-46. Let me see. Trying to wait for these two to start talking about the Senate race. They're talking about Attorney General. Oh, no. Here they go. They're talking about the Senate race now. Let's look at these two. I think they're live. Yeah, they're doing some live now.
Stronghold for, well, I say stronghold. Right now it's going to Corning and then the surrounding counties, right? Fort Bend County, you know, again, still close here with Paxton and Corning, but going to Paxton. Galveston County over here, going over to Paxton. So it is very, very interesting to see how the rest of this particular area, Wharton County, is going to shape up and, you know, what they're going to be doing here. I think the Dallas counties are also interesting. You know, you have the Attorney General is from the Dallas area.
Yeah.
And so to have so many of these
Collin County, any from Collin County? Yeah, yeah.
And so to have so many of these races, you know, kind of the outer areas, those outer counties supporting him, but you know, so many of these, we're just kind of looking at some of
those numbers are so close. I mean, you're talking less than 2,000 votes.
This is what I was looking for. Collin County, his home county, right, where he and Senator Angela Paxton in the midst of a divorce, as the U.S. Senator would tell you all about. You know, it's interesting. That's 65% voting. All right, so we just heard, if we take on the Democratic side, we want to take a look, and you can see that State Representative James Talarico is having a very strong showing.
I thought he might do well. I thought there aren't a lot of votes here. There's probably more votes here than there are here.
Sure. I mean, you can click on some of them and we can see,
but
you know, some of what's happening in the Panhandle.
39. You're going to have 20. There's not going to be many. Right. But the cumulative, I think that's what one thing I was curious to see how Talarico was going to do here and here. Mm-hmm. That to me is going to be key for him. If he performs well here, and in these smaller counties out here, he might be able to, I think, keep up at least 52% right now with nearly 870,000 votes statewide cast.
And so that's a switch. Obviously, we want to know from when we were looking at this earlier, Harris County still strongly for Jasmine Crockett. And this is what we expected, right? If we go to Travis County, 76% for James Talarico. Hayes County, 73% for James Talarico. You know, Williamson County, nothing is in yet. We're still waiting to get some of those totals. So when you look
at I think Williamson is one of the counties that may be delayed, of course, and so we're sitting here waiting for that. Talarico is certainly winning in some of these counties that don't have the higher population, but that, just like he said, that's a cumulative vote total is going to be to his advantage in a big way. So even though it's not that's going to be that's still going to work for him. Question is, can she run up the score in Dallas and Williamson? Dallas County and Williamson, that's going to be very, very, that's going to be the decisive question. Already you can see some of the pundits on X assuming that Talarico is going to win, but I don't know that they are basing that on anything other than a feeling, a spidey sense, but they may have done some math behind that, of course. Wouldn't surprise me if they did do some math behind that. But this record turnout is definitely one of the stories of the night, as is the, quote, confusion in Dallas. You know, the confusion in Dallas is just really freaking annoying.
And you split up the resources. So instead of having, you know, 10 voting machines in one location for people, there's fewer, 3 here, 3 there. Right? Because you had to split it up by the parties. And so I think it's just taking people longer to vote.
This is the one I'm going to be watching all night.
It's going to be a long night. We've got an hour before the polls close there now.
Because of that judge's ruling, they've extended voting till 9 o'clock. That's why you don't see any Democratic votes. There's some Republican votes now in Dallas County.
Yeah. For Senator John Cornyn.
John Cornyn doing well. He's performing well pretty much all.
Yeah, so of course Dallas County is going to hold up this entire evening. One of probably the most important county on the map in terms of a huge population, and it may be the decisive county on the map. Dallas definitely favors Crockett. There's no question. Question is, how big can she run the number up? I don't know that number can run up over what Talarico has right now in terms of being ahead. That's going to be really hard to pull that off. And we just got a little bit of an update here. 36% of the vote in, 52-46 Talarico, 52-46 Talarico. Again, looking down here to see if his stronghold has come in. It's where Williamson, gosh, it's exactly the counties that matter. The Williamson County and Dallas County, and those are the ones that are going to be delayed. What an amazing thing. It's just incredible how things work out. It really truly is. Yeah, that's going to take probably all freaking night to figure that out. Let me see. Yeah, let's dip into this again.
For the Democrats, it's a little bit similar, right? James Talarico, Jasmine Crockett, you look at voting wise, policy wise, they are a Democrat's Democrat. Both of them are a Democrat's Democrat.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of who do you want to be your fighter in November, and who do you want your fighter against a Ken Paxton? Who do you want to be your fighter against a John Cornyn? This is where you talk to
Yeah, they really are quite the same on most policies. I didn't see any big differences there that were blowing my doors off. We're seeing the same thing, except saying it differently. And that's just what it was. I don't know if the prosecution rests. We'll see. We got some numbers that have to come in here to figure this out. It's still not there in terms of only 36% reporting. It's probably gonna be another hour before we get to the point where we know what's going on. But we're definitely getting an indication, because the person ahead tends to stay ahead in these things typically all night long. I would say all night long, but after a certain percentage, like 40%, that person does tend to stay in charge. Let me see. There's got to be some sort of live feed out there that see what it's not Kornacki, but another one that really goes into a thing. And these two at the local station are really doing something very, very similar. Just really doing a deep dive analysis of the maps. They're doing a really good job of it too. Let me see. What is this? Brian Tyler Cohen is out there. We like that. We like that. He's doing some analysis. And this is great. This is great. One of my personal favorites. Let's see what he's talking about here.
Remains to be seen who's going to emerge from this primary. Obviously, John Cornyn is the incumbent senator, and Ken Paxton is the embattled Texas official. And I believe the attorney general.
Always in battle.
Let me just confirm that. Yes, Ken Paxton is the attorney general. He's been attorney general for about a decade now. I'm getting the question, what's the single biggest indicator tonight that midterms are on the right track? I'd say turnout numbers right now. The fact that right now we expect that this Democratic primary is going to have somewhere in the ballpark of 2.4 million voters, whereas the Republican primary in Texas is going to draw somewhere in the ballpark of 2.1 million voters. That is a good indicator that the enthusiasm is on the Democratic side, that turnout is depressed on the Republican side. And if we can kind of extrapolate these numbers into,
I can't show too much of this because I gotta I gotta pay him money if I show too much. But he's good. He's great. Brian Talarico is fantastic. Let me see. I don't know what C-SPAN is doing here. What is C-SPAN doing? They're just really only talking about North Carolina?
North Carolina, how they voted in previous presidential elections. How is the president polling in North Carolina? Will that have an impact tonight and heading into the general election? Yeah.
That is like a live feed. I'm not sure what they've got to have a Texas thing someplace in there. There's an AP feed. Let me see.
Many predictions until we get that information. I've been watching Harris County very closely because that's really the sort of, I guess, swing region, at least in this primary. Neither candidate has a very strong foothold there. Right now, Jasmine Crockett has a 9-point edge in Harris County, 65% of the vote in, so still a ways to go. But what really is standing out to me is just how much James Talarico is absolutely demolishing Jasmine Crockett in Travis County, which is Austin. That is about what we would expect. It's hard to come up with a part of the state that's better equipped, better, aligned with the Talarico sort of image and message. And of course, he's from Williamson County, which is just to the north. But he's currently beating her there 76-23. So there are parts of the state where her message is not resonating.
Abby Livingston.
Just as we expected, counties where there is a significant Black vote are coming in strong for Crockett. The exception to the rural angle that we've discussed is East Texas, where I went to camp as a young woman or a young girl, and she's doing very well in East Texas. Another interesting part is we don't have Williamson County, which should also be very strong for Talarico. But again, I want to come back to South Texas and the Hispanic vote. And the Hispanic vote has not been terribly reliable in Texas, particularly in primaries. But that has changed. And there was a special election in Texas in my hometown of Fort Worth in January. And Hispanics turned out very strongly, especially when compared to historical precedent. And so I think this is a vote that is up for grabs. I think we are seeing similar patterns as we saw in the New Jersey governor's race in Passaic County, in the Miami Democratic mayoral race in Florida, and in the redistricting statewide ballot initiative in California. The Hispanic vote is the most interesting, most crucial, and most up for grabs vote in American politics right now.
And Abby Livingston, while you're talking, we're showing our viewers the 2026 election map here in Texas. James Talarico is in green, as you're talking about southern Texas, and Jasmine Crockett is in purple. So what are you seeing here then with the way that the colors are coming in?
So if you go down to the very tip of Texas, that's where the population center of South Texas is mostly consolidated. And so it looks like Talarico is doing pretty well, particularly in Cameron County. He's up 14 points. And so that's a very promising sign. We don't have Laredo yet. I think that's going to be very crucial. When you move.
That's an interesting analysis. Finally talking a little bit about Hispanic vote and get some results in here. Because really this is, they are the group that may decide the entire thing for the evening. But, man, what a situation, like have this type of turnout for the Democrats and find out that it's not just the Crockett turnout. This looks like it was excitement across the board for the Democratic Party. That really makes me believe that not only were they turning out for Crockett, they're turning out for Talarico, they're turning out against Donald Trump, and that record number of turnout for like 30 years or whatever it was, 25 years, 2.4 million Democrats showing up is quite something. And I wonder how it's going in Arkansas and North Carolina when it comes to the turnout numbers. It's a pretty freaking high turnout number. But let's see what else is going on here out there on the internet in terms of what people are talking about.
In the Democratic or the Republican. I think the rest of these races,
they've already called that.
Called the governor's race.
Was there really any race there? Okay, let's look at the results here. So 37%, 52-46, Talarico, 52-46 still. Again, you don't have Williamson in Dallas, and it's amazing. I love how the election people tend to mess up the most important locations. It's just like incredible, just absolutely incredible. 37% of the vote is in. So, again, by about 9:30, we should get some sort of prediction, maybe from AP or somebody, about what's going on here. There should be some sort of indication about what this result may be. The governor's primary race is not competitive. She has to also. I've got the sound down on that because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. There's a lot of copyright concerns back and forth with YouTube, which is fine. Try to find something that's kind of like a feed that maybe folks are doing. It's not, maybe a government thing or a campaign thing. Certainly can follow their campaign feeds. 52-46, 37% of the vote in 52-46. Talarico is ahead. Is this going to be an update here? Plus, yeah. Yep, Talarico still ahead, 52-46. It was a little minor update right there. 38% in. Yeah, it was just a minor update there. Let me see if anybody's saying anything in terms of predicting this thing for the evening. I think by 9:30 there should be some sort of prediction. Seems like they're trying to be. Yeah, not yet. I mean, there's not anything that is definitively is just giving results. It's going to be hard, I think, for the Republicans. If Talarico wins, it's going to be hard for them to run against this guy. No doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt about it. It's going to be hard for them to figure out a way to get after him. He's going to run to the middle in all probability. And when he runs to the middle, particularly if he's got Paxton up there, Paxton's going to look nuts. And then Paxton's going to probably have to embrace Trump. And then you have that whole question. And I think that's something that the Republicans really don't want to have to deal with, quite frankly. But they're going to have to, certainly if Talarico is their opponent. He's going to really make them think about that, I think. I mean, he'll run to the middle on some issues, but certainly on the Trump question, he's right hitting the billionaires like crazy. You got to be doing that in the primary, but in the general, things do change in terms of how ideologically he wants to be, if in fact he wins. Let's see. 38% of the vote. 38% of the vote and 52-46 Talarico. Man, this Dallas County thing is a pain in the neck. Such a pain in the neck. It's 45 minutes to go for that poll to close. It's not 9 o'clock for another 45 minutes in Texas. We'll wait around all freaking night to find that out because of some silly ass lack of planning. 8:23. Face the Nation has Talarico up by 7. Again, we're going to see whether those polls were right. There was a poll that Fox did, there was a local Fox station in Texas, had a Talarico up by like 8 at the end, and everybody was looking at that poll, but nobody wanted to really, say that it was, it was legit one way or the other. But the polls were all over the place. Some had her ahead, some had him ahead, and it was just like you just couldn't tell what that meant one way or the other. Just the polls just absolutely all over the place. Have they counted early voting? I don't know the answer to the early voting thing. I'm sorry. Have they counted early voting yet? Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I think Dallas. I don't know if Dallas will win it by 350,000 votes. Did they turn out is the question. Dallas will win it. She'll definitely win Dallas. And again, this is a message. It's a matter of how much she can run that up. Counted early voting yet. Yeah, only the votes count is right. I mean, I'm not going to say the polls are all lies. Again, it's going to be interesting to see which polls were right after this is over. And I cannot wait to I cannot wait to look because there were some polls just all over the place. Some had her, some had him, and who knows why that was. I mean, the polls really shouldn't be that all over the place, seems to me. They should have been a little bit closer than they were. But you have polls that had like her 10 up and then him 10 up. And I'm thinking, well, why is that? Were they polling in a certain part of the state? Were they polling certain people? Were they polling a certain demographic? Like, what was going on with that? The polls were all over the place for this race. And I just cannot wait to find out who was right. Because whoever was right wasn't playing any games. They were running a fair poll and probably not a push poll and not trying to, in some way, not trying to in some way impact the income of the outcome. Oh wow, let's look at the results. 43%, and again, we should be having a moment here of figuring out 53% in. I'm sorry, 43% in. Talarico 53-45. Talarico 53-45 with 43% of the vote in. But without Dallas, but then again, we don't have Williamson, which should be big for him. That should be really big for him. Without Dallas, and maybe even Van Zandt. I don't know what Johnson's going to do. A suburb county in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where white voters make up the largest group among Democrats. Biden won. Blah, blah. Yeah, that's probably going to, I don't know. I guess that's going to go for Talarico, but that's sort of near Dallas, but it's not Dallas. So I don't know that she can run it up to overcome a 53-45 vote difference. There's a ton of votes there. She would have to overcome 80,000 votes. 44% of the vote in. Let's see what NBC is saying here.
Jasmine Crockett. Again, still waiting for some of these other population centers around here. These are smaller places. But if you look at Cameron County, again, 64% of the vote in. Talarico's got a lead of 63%. We're also filling up in the middle of Texas around here, and they're sharing it. This is Talarico, and then you got Crockett. These are not big. These are not big districts, as you can see. There's a few hundred votes here and there. Same thing up here. You've got smaller counties.
Yeah, Talarico is winning a lot of these smaller counties. Smaller counties don't have a whole lot of big vote totals, but obviously that adds up. Even though it's not huge numbers, still he's winning a lot of those smaller counties, and those numbers are definitely adding up. No question about that. But again, Dallas, here's the boy. Man, is it 700,000 votes in Dallas? Oh, let's see. I'm going to text Roland Martin and ask him. He's from Texas. Let's ask a Texan. Let's ask a Texan night. Wow. I don't know that can bring in enough for her to overtake. Obviously, 700,000, more than 700,000. Yeah, it could bring in for enough for her to overtake. But for a primary election, I mean, even though there's like a record turnout for a primary election, I just can't imagine it would be, top number for something like that. He's answering really fast. Good. And that just would be. Yeah, I'm from New York, from the Bronx, but my mother's from Virginia, so my entire life has been New York and Virginia. Yikes. Yeah, I mean, people, let me see what people are saying. I got to go through X a second. There's definitely, I don't know. There should be somebody primarying Schumer. It's just ridiculous, this guy. He's been in way too long. Somebody's probably going to call this pretty soon. 44% of the votes in. Talarico up 53-45. And yeah, I know Dallas is not here, but then again, Williamson isn't here either. They might have delayed that as well. And Williamson is definitely going to be Talarico country. So Williamson not being in there and then Dallas not being in there, I'm not going to say it's going to cancel each other out exactly, but that is an interesting situation. The two areas for both candidates, home bases for both candidates, are not in. They're not in, and they're not gonna be in. So let's take a look at some of the predictors of. There's some folks out there that do predictions that should be able to predict what this is going to do. I mean, with almost 50% of the vote in, just gets to a point where you can figure it out mathematically. I'm surprised nobody has really predicted it. Bexar County. Bexar County, and that is for, and that's a very Hispanic county. Looks like Talarico has won that 56-42. That's interesting. See what else we got. Yeah, 44% of the vote, 53-46. Yeah, it looks like Talarico's going to win. Just looks like Talarico is going to win. Because I don't think that's going to flip. I don't know who Volstead is, but they're saying that he won. I don't know who that is though. looking for let me see here. What's this?
It's cheating. Then they will continue to do it. All Red has already stated, we encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be rewarded, because so long as they know that they can win, even if it means cheating, then they will continue to do it. So I am asking you, I am begging you to make sure that you go ahead and figure out where it is that you are supposed to vote, stand in line, wait in line.
Okay. I don't know exactly when that was. I guarantee I'd be surprised if that wasn't earlier, when the first report came out of there being some sort of irregularity and all this stuff, and people are confused about which polling places they're going to. That was probably about 2 or 3 hours ago, maybe 6 o'clock-ish, 7 o'clock-ish. I don't think that was recent, like 3 seconds ago. It doesn't say exactly when it was. Let's just keep going here. There's a few predictors here saying that Talarico won again, I think by 9:30, and it is 9:30 right now Eastern. We should pretty much know that. But I'm trying to find out if Redistrict has called this race. Let's see. Cornyn Paxson advanced to a runoff. Wasserman is saying that this is Dave Wasserman, who of course is like one of the best predictors online. He's saying that Cornyn and Paxton are going to go to a runoff. That's going to be very interesting. Crenshaw and Al Green are in trouble. So is Al Green in trouble or not? I saw some early numbers for Al Green in Texas. I thought he was fine. This is all actually a result of the mid-decade redistricting, which of course messed up Jasmine Crockett's seat and Al Green. It looks like Dan Crenshaw's the other one, which that's interesting. Let me see. I mean, basically what happened was there were 4 black Democrats in Texas had to basically either run for something else, do some other seat, or they had to change what they were doing, because once that redistricting happened, they were at a huge disadvantage. They were basically drawn out of their seats. It's really what happened. So Menifee is leading Al Green in Texas for Congress. Green comes up losing primaries and over redistricting. Yeah. I mean, so the redistricting of the district really is what that is. I mean, that's just sort of one of those things that was bound to happen. And you notice it upended Colin Allred. It upended Jasmine Crockett, Al Green, and a third member. So 3 black members whose seats were really destroyed in that redistricting round. There's no getting around that. And Al Green would be one of them if he's one of the ones that loses. Here we go again, 44% of the vote in, 53-45, Talarico. Gonna try to hold on here to the top of the hour, 10 o'clock Eastern, and see if we can get some reports out of Dallas and Williams. I do think those two things are going to cancel each other out. 45% of the vote. and Talarico is sort of comfortably ahead now. I would say I would call that a comfortable lead. Yeah, I would call that a comfortable lead. I would call that a lead that'd be very hard to upend. I think it'd be hard for Crockett to get ahead of Talarico with that type of lead. Be very surprising. Anything is possible, I guess you could say, but man, that'd be hard to. I mean, I know there's a ton of votes in Dallas, but man, they'd all have to be going her way. No doubt about that. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's take a look at the New York Times and the results coming in live. 45% in. It was 43% before, and Talarico has opened up an even bigger lead, 53-45. And this is almost, as you can see, that Texas map is pretty much filled in. And I'm not sure how that flips with 45% of the vote in and counted and put to bed. That should be it for this. I'd be surprised if that changes. See if anybody else is saying the same thing.
The strength of James Talarico in the more rural areas of the state and in the more Hispanic heavy areas of the state, I think is incredibly notable. I mean, we got a little while ago a bunch of vote from Nueces County, which is down in South Texas, the Corpus Christi area, heavily Hispanic county, and James Talarico in the early vote at least was doubling up Jasmine Crockett. The Latino vote has been a critical element of this primary. It's been harder to get a handle on. Pollsters will tell you that South Texas is probably one of the hardest places to poll anywhere in America. Of course, there are a lot of Latino voters throughout the state, not just in South Texas.
Yeah, so just waiting for somebody to call this thing, actually.
At the same point at which we were vote left to be counted. I presume the reason that this race hasn't been called with 50% of the vote reporting is because Jasmine Crockett is from Dallas, and so that's going to be a major portion of her vote share. Meanwhile, Travis County, falling where James Talarico is from, falling overwhelmingly in his favor.
Yeah, I'm surprised this hasn't been called.
Nueces County.
Nueces?
About 2/3 of the vote reporting right now, 65%. James Talarico is taking almost 2/3 of the vote as well. And then we have some smaller counties along the southeastern border of Texas, the Gulf border here. All right, let's go statewide again and see what it's looking like. Still at 49%, so it doesn't look like we've gotten any votes in the last little while.
Yeah, everybody's waiting for Dallas and Williamson. I don't know that you need Dallas and Williamson. Jesus. I mean, I know there's a ton of voters there, but it's all a turnout game. And the question is, did they turn out? Going to be interesting. Yeah, Talarico actually is pretty progressive. I mean, there was never any big divergence from the two. It's just that you learn about what the style is going to be for the Democratic Party in Texas going toward the midterms. The two really weren't that different in terms of policy, Talarico and Crockett. It really was stylistic. And whether or not you want to run toward the middle, you can see that Crockett was not interested in running toward the middle. She's doing what she was doing. She didn't want to run toward the middle at all. I suspect Talarico will, depending on who his opponent is. If it's Paxton, he's not going to have to run toward the middle too hard because Paxton is such a right wing, nut that basically, I mean, I just no way. I mean, he's a right wing guy that's been involved in tons of corruption, tons of scandals, and everybody's gonna I think respond to that. Let me see. Oh, I totally forgot that I had on. Let's go back to New York Times once again. 45% in. I thought it was 50 in. 45% should be enough to call this race. And 45% in is 53-45 Talarico. So it's 55-45 Talarico. It really should be over. I can't imagine. You know, his Williamson should sort of mini cancel out what she's got. Well, Miss Sparks, I don't want to get too conspiratorial. We'll see. I will see what happens. It will be an overwhelming amount of votes in Dallas for Crockett. But again, it'll be an overwhelming amount of votes in Williamson for Talarico. He's from Williamson, so he's going to do well there, no doubt about it. Again, the race does tell us a lot about the direction of the Democratic Party, who they want in there, who they feel comfortable with, what type of candidate they want to promote, what type of candidate they want running in these bigger races. But keeping in mind, Texas is pretty red. Beto O'Rourke lost. I mean, the Democrats may get lucky if Paxton is the candidate. They're going to get very lucky because you want him as the candidate. You definitely want him. If you're the Democrats, you want Paxton as the person. So, yeah, people keep saying that there's a ton of votes coming in from Dallas, but I don't know that. I just don't know if it'll change that much. 45% of the vote in, and it should be a prediction coming up here. People just need to do the basic math of what. I don't know. They should do the basic math. How many votes she would need at Dallas to surpass that lead? Now, I just don't see that happening. We'll see. Tarrant. Let's see. Yeah, let's see if Redistrict has made a prediction. If he makes a prediction, I'm probably going to. Dan Crenshaw lost. Wow. Talarico takes Rava. Yeah. So, again, 47% of the vote in, and Talarico's ahead. Williamson has half the vote, less than half the vote count of Dallas. It could get interesting, but I don't know. 53-45, 45%. I don't know. I just don't think there's enough there to flip the numbers, particularly when he's picking up some things like 80-20 out there. I don't know if she's picking up anything 80-20, but that's pretty damn impressive. It's I love the people who are gloating. It is so sad the Mexicans in the border towns in Texas are more in favor of the Republican Party. It is interesting. Why are Mexicans so in favor of the Republicans? The Republicans are in here throwing them out of the country, and getting, having the fire department go to roofs and try to get them off rooftops, and they're doing their freaking job as a roofer. It's so odd that that's the case, but it is. It's amazing. Who knows why that is? I think, let me see. Let's look for an update here. It's got to be something. What's the guy's name? Redistrict? Yeah, so the polls were extended in 3 counties. And I'm not sure it's going to flip the thing, but the polls were extended in 3 counties. Apparently, Al Green has got some trouble in terms of winning this election to this primary. He's in danger of losing. Oh, he's definitely in danger of losing. Is it 53-4? Yeah, amazing. He's losing right now, 66% of the vote in. And boy, Crockett, Talarico's frozen in place, I guess, until another 20 minutes until we get Williamson and everybody else in. Man, and Dallas, of course. But that's annoying. It's ridiculous. Most important counties in the world haven't reported. Gotta be kidding me. Yep. I see a lot of people talking like it's over already. I'm not sure why. Somebody should have figured out the math by now, but nobody's really figured out the math in Dallas and Williamson, so nobody's going to say anything. But I would be surprised Talarico if she could overtake him on that. Democrats should not want Paxton. Cornyn is a rhino and won't get as much support. That's probably true. It's just that Paxton has a ton of issues that, man, if the Democrats can't win against him, they really need to pack it in. You don't remember how close the last 2 elections were with Beto against? Yeah, they were close, but still, Democrat hasn't won in forever. Ann Richards, I think, was the last one. I swear if Talarico Slug is going to lose whoever the Republican opponent is, he might. But then again, he's got the wave. You got the wind at your back. Boy, we got Donald Trump in there. For the way they treated Jasmine, Talarico. Yeah, white progressives were interesting during this. No doubt about this. White progressives were extremely interesting during this. A lot of very interesting things that happen. And it's just a, you're the backbone. Black voters are the backbone of the party, and black voters are so important, and they're so vital, and they're the key to the party. And then when it comes to, you're actually wanting to run for office, now you're not the backbone of the party. Now it's like a little bit different. Let me see if I can find a live feed or something to chime into here. I don't think I can find anything that's really useful. Let me see. Let me see here. $90 votes? Oh, wow. That sounds about right. A lot of these races are really close sometimes. It's not even funny. It's crazy. I mean, it is amazing how close things can come. Somehow that doesn't really, that doesn't shock me that these races come that close. Well, Cornyn is coming ahead. That's interesting. Yeah. That's funny. Again, I am surprised there is no prediction yet for this after it gets to about, even with the outstanding counties. Even with the outstanding counties, I'm a little surprised that there's no prediction yet. It's getting close, though. It's getting close. But again, the whole point was to get rid of her House seat, so she had to either resign, run and lose. It was just sort of interesting. But again, two good candidates for the Democrats. Two really, really, really good candidates for the Democrats. There's some Marcus. Wow, he looks like he's a Democrat. Wow, it's so interesting. Yeah, there was like a press conference, it looks like about an hour ago. Let me play some of this. This is interesting. About a minute or so.
I've got people that are sending me emails. I have video recordings of voters that are crying and hurt. None of this should have happened. Let's talk about the many failures. Let's talk about what was intentional. Number one, the Republicans only did this to intentionally disenfranchise and confuse voters. That is number one. But number two, while many people were showing up to the polling locations, they were told things such as, you can't provide a provisional ballot. Now, that is exactly when you would provide a provisional ballot. If you were saying, this is my polling location, and they're saying, no, it's not, you should, at a very minimum, be able to cast a provisional ballot. We've heard countless stories of people being told you can't. Then we hear stories of people saying, we're trying to go to DallasCountyVotes.org, and the website keeps crashing. Then we're hearing stories of, if the website is up, it's giving us the wrong location to go to. So thank you to Cardinal Coleman, who is the chair of the Democratic Party in Dallas County, because he, along with myself, Colin Allred, we all understood what should happen next, which was litigation. And so we were prepared and we were about to file when we received word that an order had been signed by Judge Stacey Williams. Judge Williams signed off on that order for Dallas County, but I want to be clear about this as someone who is running statewide, and frankly, as someone who is concerned that this will become the norm for the Republicans as they are understanding that Democrats are fed up right now, and right now Democrats are outvoting Republicans.
That's about the end of that right there. I'm trying to find.
I've got people that are sending me emails. I have video recordings of voters that are crying and hurt. None of this should have happened. Let's talk about the many failures. Let's talk about what was intentional. Number one, the Republicans only did this to intentionally disenfranchise and confuse voters. That is number one. But number two, while many people were showing up to the polling locations, they were told things such as, you can't provide a provisional ballot. Now, that is exactly when you would provide a provisional ballot. If you were saying, this is my polling location, and they're saying, no, it's not, you should, at a very minimum, be able to cast a provisional ballot. We've heard countless stories of people being told you can't. Then we hear stories of people saying, we're trying to go to DallasCountyVotes.org, and the website keeps crashing.
Then we're hearing stories of if the website is up, it's giving us the wrong location to go to. So thank you to Cardinal Coleman, who is the chair of the Democratic Party in Dallas County, because he, along with myself, Colin Allred, we all understood what should happen next, which was litigation. And so we were prepared and we were about to file when we received word that an order had been signed by Judge Stacey Williams. Judge Williams signed off on that order for Dallas County, but I want to be clear about this as someone who is running statewide, and frankly, as someone who is concerned that this will become the norm for the Republicans as they are understanding that Democrats are fed up right now, and right now Democrats are outvoting Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats really are outvoting Republicans. And that energy that we saw wasn't just Crockett. Looks like it was definitely also Talarico, no question. And so, interestingly enough, this irregularity or confusion or whatever we want to call it that went on in Dallas, and this is definitely going to be a huge story tomorrow and tonight, later on tonight, regardless of what the results are. And now I'm reading that the Texas Supreme Court has temporarily blocked a Dallas judge's order to keep the polls open until 9, ordering the county to separate out votes from people who were, oh, wow. Ordering the county to separate votes from people who were not in line at 7 o'clock. Good luck doing that. That's going to be really hard to do. So the Texas Supreme Court, this order to extend the Dallas hours from 7 o'clock to from 7 to 9. Of course, the polls were set to close at 7. And of course, we're extended to 9. Boy, Texas is a trip. Texas is an absolute trip. And now we have a situation where you're going to have the Texas Supreme Court pausing a judge's order on the Dallas polls. Wow. Wow. Now they got to separate out the ballots, the people who voted after 9 o'clock. Well, good luck doing that. That is really crazy. That is absolutely crazy. That right there is a huge, huge, huge problem. What just got announced. The Texas Supreme Court has overruled the judge's ruling to extend the voting hours for 2 hours from 7 to 9 o'clock. And of course, we were just about to find out some of these results because we're coming up on 9 o'clock Central right now. And now we're finding out that the Texas Supreme Court is killing that ruling to extend the voting hours. And this is all, to me, I mean, let me find the rest of this press conference that they did where she's talking about this, because this is actually starting to, of course, be a bigger deal as the hours go on here. At first, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, but I think you do have to argue that the percentage of victory may surpass this as an issue in terms of, I mean, if Talarico is way, 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 way ahead, but still it is suspicious to me that, of course, of all the counties that this happened in, it had happened in Crockett's home base. The fact that it happened in Crockett's home base of Dallas is just unbelievable. But the idea that they're going to have to figure out who voted after 7 o'clock, who voted after 7, between that hour of 7 to 8, and of course 8 to 9, so from 7 to 9, and somehow they're going to probably try to, I don't know what they're going to try to do with those ballots of everybody who voted after 7 o'clock. That sounds completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. But there are reports that hundreds of voters were turned away. Hundreds of voters were turned away. And that's gotta, that's something that's going to be a problematic feature of this evening. There's just no doubt about that. Man, That is wild. CNN isn't saying anything about it, but that is completely wild. Let's see, general statement, Texas. Yeah, let me see if I can find the video of her, Colin Allred, just speaking at that press conference. But once again, what has happened in the last few minutes here apparently is that the Texas Supreme Court has ruled against the extension of the voting hours in Dallas County. What happened was a ton of voters were turned away. And when those voters were turned away, a judge decided to extend the voting hours, which that is not unusual. So I'm not sure why. It's not like, oh my God, that's never happened before. That's happened. That's absolutely happened before. That voting hours were extended when there was some sort of irregularity or some sort of an issue. What happens? They just extend the voting hours, and so now the Texas Supreme Court has stepped in and said, well, the voting hours shouldn't be extended. Not only that, we're going to try to find out who voted after 7 o'clock. So between 7 and 9, and yes, Ms. Sparks, it is always something. It is always something. That is an incredible development into this election. And, you know, I was completely wrong when I said that I didn't think any of this would impact what the outcome was. And in fact, it still may not impact what the outcome is, but damn it, it cast a huge shadow over this evening in terms of figuring out what's going on with these results and what happened with the people who were turned away. And really, that is a good question. Imagine what would happen in November. Okay, this is the primary that we're talking about tonight. Imagine what would happen. Okay, so with 46% of the vote, by the way, just to take a peek at the New York Times results, 46% of the vote, Talarico is ahead, 53-46. Again, we do not have Dallas in. Dallas County is not in, which of course is a Jasmine Crockett stronghold. We also don't have Williamson County in, which is a James Talarico stronghold. And we sit and we wait because, you know, the extended voting hours in Dallas, I guess they did wait. To Daryl's question earlier, I got that incorrect. So that they did wait to of course count the votes because of the extended voting hours. Now we're finding out that the Texas Supreme Court says that the extended voting hours should not have happened. And, these is good questions in the chat about if this is happening now, what's happening in November? Yeah, very good question. Very good point. What is happening in November if this type of nonsense is happening right now for a primary? It's ridiculous. Again, everybody has plenty of time to figure out what they're doing and figure out how to plan these things. There's absolutely no excuse for this. Always something. It is always something. She is not winning now. At 46% of the vote in and 53-45. She's down by a good 80,000 votes and with 46% in. So, I mean, in most cases, this race would have been called, but you have one major county that has not reported, which is Dallas, just a major, major county. And it happens to be the home base of Jasmine Crockett. Good. Voting early is really a good idea. They actually should have voted early. I mean, I'm not going to say that's not true. There is something to the fact that people wait, but people are busy, and I respect the fact that people are busy. People have stuff to do. They have stuff to do. They go to work, and dropping their kids off, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, there was early voting. There was early voting. I mean, there was early voting days ago. So, 2 banks, post office every day open. Yeah, I mean, there should have been some early voting here, but this is just still, it is crazy that this is happening, and this is starting to become a bigger and bigger story. And the Texas Supreme Court pauses the judge's order on Dallas polls. I don't know what pausing the order means. To me, pausing the order means stopping the order. So I'm not, those two things sound the same to me. They stopped the judge's order and they want to know who voted after 7 o'clock. And Sounds like they're on the road to try to void whoever voted after 7 o'clock. Yeah, good luck with doing all that. And you can see the lawsuits flying already when people's votes are not counted because of this type of situation. I mean, it's always something with Texas, always something. And here we are with this. So that is, let me just see if I can find the full Colin Allred, Jasmine Crockett presser from today. What is this? 19 minutes. Yeah, it's probably it right here. Yeah. I'm gonna just roll this. I will be looking at the results as I roll. It's 20 minutes. I'll probably not roll the entire thing, but I'm gonna roll a little bit of this here.
Is part of a
This is a press conference earlier where Colin Allred and Jasmine Crockett were going to sue Texas over this irregularity and this confusion or whatever the heck it was, and they threw up a press conference to address it.
of trying to disenfranchise Black. What we're dealing with in Dallas County is part of a broader pattern of trying to disenfranchise Black and brown voters across the state of Texas that began with the gerrymandering of our congressional districts. As Jasmine knows, our districts were redrawn at the command of the White House to try and eliminate the voices of communities like those here in North Texas. The district that I am running in right now, this newly drawn 33rd district, should not exist. A Trump-appointed judge said that it was a racial gerrymander. And yet here we are still running in these districts. Because the Dallas County Republican Party decided that they wanted to continue to restrict and make it more difficult for folks to vote. We have had chaos across our community here in North Texas as folks have gone to their normal polling place and been turned away, told to go somewhere else. Working folks who only have a certain amount of time to drop off their kids, get to the job, do the things they have to do to take care of their family, are being redirected and oftentimes leading to confusion. This is outrageous. It's unacceptable. And we should all recognize what is happening here. That we've had hundreds of reports of voters turned away from their polling place. And as somebody who was a voting rights lawyer before I ever ran for Congress or served in office, and I know Jasmine knows this as well from her background in civil rights, that sometimes a new law can be worse than a bad law. When folks don't know what to expect, when they don't know where to go or who to turn to, we end up in a situation like this. So here's where things stand at this moment, and then I'll turn it over to Congresswoman Crockett. The polls have been extended in Dallas County until 9 p.m. I encourage every voter in Dallas County to get in line by 7 p.m. to make sure that your vote counts. Should you get in line after that, though, stay in line. Cast your provisional ballot, and we will make sure and do everything we can that your vote is one that counts. We have been given an opportunity thanks to a judge's order. I was ready to bring a lawsuit to try and extend this. Luckily, it was already done. To have a couple more hours to try and deal with this chaos. So to folks here in Dallas County, to my fellow North Texans, I say make sure that you find your polling place at dallascountyvotes.org. Look up your new polling place, again, at dallascountyvotes.org. And make sure, if you can, to be in line by 7, but if you don't, we'll still fight to make sure your vote is going to be counted. And we'll be there till 9 o'clock. We are in this fight not just for our elections, but for the right to vote in this state and the democracy that is at risk in this country. This is bigger than just what's happening in Dallas County or just the chaos that we've seen today. It is a pattern and one that we're going to fight against. Congresswoman Crockett.
Thank you so much. My heart is breaking. I've got people that are sending me emails. I have video recordings of voters that are crying and hurt. None of this should have happened Let's talk about the many failures. Let's talk about what was intentional. Number one, the Republicans only did this to intentionally disenfranchise and confuse voters. That is number one. But number two, while many people were showing up to the polling locations, they were told things such as, you can't provide a provisional ballot. Now, that is exactly when you would provide a provisional ballot. If you are saying, this is my polling location, and they're saying, no, it's not, you should, at a very minimum, be able to cast your provisional ballot. We've heard countless stories of people being told you can't. Then we hear stories of people saying, we're trying to go to DallasCountyVotes.org, and the website keeps crashing. Then we're hearing stories of, if the website is up, it's giving us the wrong location to go to. So thank you to Cardall Coleman, who is the chair of the Democratic Party in Dallas County, because he, along with myself and Colin Allred, we all understood what should happen next, which was litigation. And so we were prepared, and we were about to file when we received word that an order had been signed by Judge Stacey Williams. Judge Williams signed off on that order for Dallas County, but I want to be clear about this as someone who is running statewide, and frankly, as someone who is concerned that this will become the norm for the Republicans, as they are understanding that Democrats are fed up right now, and right now Democrats are outvoting Republicans. They not only did this in Dallas County, they did it in Williamson County. Williamson County right now, from what I understand, has not been granted any relief. I am here to say that it is wrong for it to be done to anyone, a Democrat or a Republican. But the Republicans didn't even have enough sense or enough courage to go out there and try to get a court order on behalf of their constituents, the Republicans. So these hours are extended for the Democrats. Now, the other issue that we have heard all over happening today was that these voting machines, that they are down. I just received an email right before I walked up. It was actually out of Tarrant County, of a woman saying there was only one Democratic machine at the location that she went to in Tarrant County, and there's 12 or 13 Republican machines. Down in Lancaster, I've been told that they've had machines down all day, and ever since they've called first thing in the morning to get more machines, they finally did bring some at some point in time, but those machines were Republican machines, not Democratic machines. Listen, this may be a very close election, and it may hinge on who was allowed to vote or who wasn't allowed to vote in Dallas County. But I'm here to say, regardless as to whether or not it's close or not, this is wrong. If one person has the right to vote and they weren't allowed to cast their vote, we should all be standing together, Democrats, Republicans, and we should all be raising hell. But unfortunately, this was always the plan. And so I am grateful for this court order. And as Congressman Allred has already stated, we encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be rewarded, because so long as they know that they can win, even if it means cheating, then they will continue to do it. So I am asking you, I am begging you to make sure that you go ahead and figure out where it is that you are supposed to vote, stand in line, wait in line, and if it means that I got to come out there with you to wait with you, I will do that. And I promise you that going forward, especially as we go into November, we will make sure that this does not happen in the general election.
Any questions?
So the time is extended, but is the damage done? You mentioned the working person who has that short amount of time to vote.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
In the context of voting rights, we know that a voter turned away is likely someone who does not vote that day. And there's a lot of reasons for it. It can be frustration, it can be their schedules. And so a lot of damage has been done. But I agree with Congresswoman Crockett that our message, I think, to folks is that your vote is so powerful, they're trying to take it away. Don't let them. And stand in line if you need to. We'll be there with you. We'll fight as we were fighting in court to get these hours extended. And this is an opportunity now that if you did miss that window, perhaps this morning when you were going to do your drive to work voting, that now you can go maybe this evening. I've got young kids. I understand how difficult that is. But our message to folks is this is an opportunity for us, at least in Dallas County, for Democrats in Dallas County, to have a couple of extra hours to try and do what we can to rectify this and to take this as an example of a fight that we have to have for November because we cannot have a repeat of this.
Yeah. Do you guys by chance know when the last time Dallas County had to extend the voting location hours by?
We've had it happen before, often because of machines or running out of ballots. In fact, the election administration, for me, is when I used to work in this, was often the most frustrating part. And this is, I think, also intentional, that we don't put enough state resources into running our elections. They don't have enough translators at polling sites. They don't have enough Spanish language ballots or other language ballots at polling sites. We make it difficult for voters with disabilities to vote. And I think a lot of this is intentional. So this is not without precedent that we've had to have an extension of the polling hours. I don't remember it being done because of one party's decision to throw this into chaos like this, though.
Congressman Crockett, your district obviously spends a lot of Dallas County coordination support. Turnout turns out to be quite low in this district. Do you still respect the results of the primary today?
I don't know what you mean by respect the results. I definitely don't plan to engage in a January 6th, if that is what you're talking about. Listen, if it is clear that this is a very close race and potentially this race was impacted directly by this, I'll be disappointed. But curing this issue after the fact is almost impossible, which is why, as trained lawyers, we were like, it can't just be enough that we say, well, this is a problem and just stand there. I mean, when you're looking for leadership, you need people that have skill sets that understand the importance of what's happening in that moment. And that is why it was a matter of, okay, if we need to file this litigation ourselves, because time was ticking. If you file after the polls are closed, it's too late. So, this was filed in a timely fashion. We have been waiting. We have been getting stories. We have been collecting evidence because those are the things that you may need, especially if you have some pushback that is coming your way. But at the end of the day, there is no way to cure it after the fact. And so ultimately, would I be disappointed if for some reason it seems like this was a very close race and a lot of people that I would assume were supportive of me were disallowed? Absolutely. I can tell you that we have no idea how many people are being turned away. But as I was at Oaklawn, I can tell you that as at least in the time that there
looks like Crockett is out here live. I'm looking at MSNBC and I see some footage. Let me see if I can find that someplace. Let me see if I can find that someplace. But that was the earlier press conference. You can bet that's just going to boil into a bigger controversy. I don't know that she's conceding a lot, not, but there's a lot of folks saying that this is over and Talarico won. So that's something to know. No, she's not expecting to have results tonight. Okay, let me see if I can re-rack it. 1 second here. Let's see if I can. She just appeared at the mic. I think Roland Martin got it. So let's see. He did. What the heck was that? So she just like appeared live there for a second at her celebration party. And let's see. Okay, this is a very small part of this. Caught everybody off guard. Let's put it that way. Looks like it's only a few seconds of it. Here we go.
And none of the returns out of Dallas County are quite in yet. Dallas County should have the second largest voter participation of any county in this state. We don't have any of the results because there was a lot of confusion today. And so, our Democratic Party chair, Cardall Coleman, he beat me to the punch, as myself and Colin all read. We're about to file a lawsuit to keep the voting polls open. We were able to keep the polls open, but I can tell you now that people have been disenfranchised. The reason that we knew that there were problems is because we were receiving the phone calls and the emails. The polls were supposed to stay open until 9, according to a court order. The Supreme Court, just a few minutes ago, just said, shut it down. The Supreme Court also said that they are to separate any votes out that came in after 7 p.m. So here's the deal. I have no idea how it is that clerks are going to know who is in line by what time, because the rule is that if you're in line by 7, then you get to vote. And so once there was a court order saying you had until 9, I'm sure that there were people that joined the line after 7. They now are telling them that you have to separate the votes out. What this means is that we will not know what votes are to be tallied from election day out of Dallas County. For sure, we won't know that tonight. So knowing that Dallas County is a big dump of votes, we, in my opinion, will not know the election results overall tonight. We need to see the Dallas County votes to see where they are. I mean, if the early vote comes in, which we may have the early vote soon, if it comes in and I'm losing Dallas County, then we know kind of where this thing is going. So, so that's my news, is that we're not going to have election results tonight, in my opinion, based upon what specifically is taking place in Dallas County. Unfortunately, this is what Republicans like to do. And so they specifically targeted Dallas County, and I think we all know why. So, I want you to enjoy yourselves, but I won't be back tonight because I have no idea of when we're going to get results, and I fully anticipate it won't be until tomorrow. So, I love you too.
So that's interesting. So she appeared at the mic at her Victory Party location and made that announcement, which was really a duplication of what she said at the press conference a few hours earlier. And because of this confusion in Dallas County, this entire thing has become problematic. And my prediction that this would not impact these results tonight was incorrect. And in fact, some results have come in from Dallas County. Remember that the polls did close for them 22 minutes ago at 9 p.m. Central. It is 10:22 Eastern, obviously on March 3rd, 2026. And of course, the minute that those Dallas County results come in, they got the race a little bit closer. And of course, it's like 51-46. Now, whether or not that's enough for her to overtake, I do tend to doubt that, but you don't know until, of course, the results are in. So now this looks like something that's a tomorrow story. It's 10:22 p.m. I'll go for another 10 minutes or so. I'm going to read the comments on my way out. And I want to thank everybody for joining. Thanks. Please hit the like button if you can. Subscribe if you can. definitely hit the like button to push this thing out because this is a 3-hour piece tonight. Definitely a lot of fun, but certainly a lot of controversy in terms of this situation with this Dallas County thing. Hundreds of people getting turned away. And of course, what those people tend to do is contact their local representative, who in fact is Jasmine Crockett. So she said she got a ton of reaction when the polls were not open. This is craziness. And shouldn't be that surprising. I do see that Al Green is losing, which is insane and amazing and crazy. Another crazy aspect of the night. But there's a lot of, unpredictable features of politics, and we're seeing a lot of that tonight. Dave Wasserman did predict that that James Talarico is going to win. That was about maybe 15 minutes ago. And he says that Talarico is going to win. Of course, it would be interesting to see this race with the full complement of ballots and not some sort of piecemeal thing. It would be interesting to see what the results are in Dallas. It is amazing. The absolutely endless effery that goes on. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. There's always something, never a dull moment. That's for sure. In American politics, certainly never a dull moment. It is crazy to me. Let me just go take a peek at the New York Times again. The results did get tighter once the Dallas results start coming in. Of course, they're nowhere near being, all of them in. 59% of the vote is out. It's 51-46. Still a pretty sizable margin for Talarico, 80,000 vote margin. But again, it would be nice to see the results of all of the counties, and particularly the one that Jasmine Crockett is the base in. She did get 191 votes out of Dallas. Again, only partially reported, 61% reported. That is a ton of votes. That did tighten things up, but it didn't quite do it in terms of her being ahead in the race. So I'm going to read some of the comments on the way out the door here, see what's going on. I can't wait to eat. And even though it's late at night, it's really too late to be eating, but I'll probably eat something. Okay. Please hit the like button. Really appreciate it. Latinos must love being played by white guys. Yeah, it's interesting to see who the Hispanic vote goes for. No doubt about it. I don't think Talarico is particularly dangerous for the Latino community, but these are the things that are just quite interesting in terms of who votes for who and why. This is going to be talked about for quite a while. You're not the only one who supports her next move, because she's probably going to end up with some sort of administration job someplace down the road. Who knows what that may be? But of course, you have to remember where this all started. If Al Green loses tonight and Jasmine Crockett is out, you realize this all happened because of redistricting in Texas. When Donald Trump signaled to the Republicans in Texas to redistrict these districts, they absolutely targeted 4 black districts. And it was Al Green, Jasmine Crockett, Mark Veazey, and all 3 of them are going to end up out of Congress next year. There's just no doubt about it that they were targeted. And they really, I think, wanted to get out of there was Jasmine Crockett. And it would appear that they have succeeded in doing that tonight. Civil War 27. Let's not have any civil wars. Civil wars are crazy. No retreat, no surrender. That's from the Bruce Springsteen song, No Surrender. No surprise to them. It's polls voting for Talarico in November. Yeah. I'm not. That's for another. That conversation is for another live. But yeah, it is interesting that Black Democrats just sort of do whatever the heck the party tells them to do without any question. Cory Bush never found another political job. Man, that's true. Cory Bush is running again, by the way, in Missouri. And that's going to be a very interesting race. She may actually have a shot there. He is another Fetterman. I don't know. We don't know that he is, but it wouldn't surprise me. This whole Republican light thing would not surprise me. It would absolutely not surprise me at all. Thanks for having me in your life for probably a few hours tonight. Ooh, boy, that was interesting. That was way more interesting than it should have been. Again, in the morning, I'll probably do another live at 9 a.m. Eastern. By that time, we've got more results. We'll have more Dallas in. We'll know a few more things. It does look like Talarico's margin of victory is pretty sizable. The Dallas results may not have been the decisive factor, but there does have to be some clarity and some facts gained on what the heck happened there and how many voters were impacted. Dallas is huge, and so the question is, how many voters are impacted? I could tell by the look on Rachel Maddow's face that a lot of voters were impacted. She's talking about it right now. So Al Green is losing is insane to me. It's absolutely insane. Thanks again, Mrs. Sparks. Oh boy, this is going to be quite something. Thanks again for the super chat. Really appreciate this. Yeah, this is crazy. I mean, it's going to be amazing. But by the time we get up in the morning, we'll know more, and we'll be we'll be better rested. And no proof that Talarico is Fetterman. He had been a very consistent state house, and really, I guess you could say nobody is Fetterman. I mean, Fetterman is a trip. He's an absolute trip. Basically, a Republican, another Joe Manchin. That's what we just needed. We were all dying for another Joe Manchin. Let's see. Okay, I'm happy. Talarico is a good candidate, though. Let's not forget that. It's not like she lost. If in fact Crockett lost, it's not like she lost to somebody who's terrible or how the heck did that happen? No, he's a good candidate. He is a good candidate. Two good candidates for the Democratic Party. Certainly an embarrassment of riches in terms of candidate quality. See the candidate quality going up. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. This whole thing of, and this is a kind of a Democratic Party, a progressive Democratic Party tradition. Black men are also problematic. I think it's time black women stop supporting black male candidates, return the favor. I completely disagree with that. Black men are right after black women in support of the Democratic Party. But because there's like no black men in the media to say that, right? Nobody ever says it because, it's just not, it's more in vogue to bash black men, quite frankly. So that's what people do. They bash black men. As far as support for the Democratic Party, the number one group is black women. The number two group is black men, period. End of story. It seems to be that just this really weird culture out there of bashing black males. I mean, I don't know what that's about, but I mean, I know what it's about. It's certainly about American history. But when we do it in our own community as black people, it's even more weird, quite frankly. It just makes no sense to me. And I'm not understanding why everything has got to break down in terms of gender. You notice during the civil rights movement, that wasn't the case. And I understand there's a lot of women during the civil rights movement that did not get proper credit because of certainly the misogyny of the time. The men were getting all the credit. They were out front, all that. And a bunch of women were in the background, busting their ass, doing a bunch of stuff. Totally understood. But this gender divide in the community, I think, weakens our politics and weakens our ability to fight the enemies that we have in front of us. And those enemies are not each other. So this idea that black men are problematic is the takeaway of the night. I could not disagree with that more. At any rate, yes, the twins. She was outspent by Colbert. Probably. The Colbert thing might have mattered. That actually might have mattered. Right in the end there. Crockett does not do a lot of interviews outside. She turned down the interview at Lawrence O'Donnell. And I get that, yeah, your thing might be your schedule might be busy or whatever. You have to remember that there's a lot of people that watch these shows. So there's that. He won't because the black vote won't come out here. I'm telling you, man. I think voters are going to come out though, because I do think that there is such a dislike of Donald Trump that we'll see. Graham Plattner. The Graham Plattner situation is quite interesting. It's very, very, very interesting. Humanitarian with Nuance Party. Please hit the like button. I don't want to do like what Roland does. Hey, there's 200 of you on here. 200 of you should have hit the like button by now. It's actually kind of funny when he does that. It actually works though too. Need a humanitarian with a nuanced party, anti-federalist push. Wait, I'm telling you, my folks down. She's been on the Jon Stewart podcast where she's even I didn't know that. She was on the Jon Stewart podcast. Jon Stewart's podcast is really good. Really good conversation. Nuanced party, anti-federalist push like Bill of Rights origin. Yeah, maybe. That's that. Yeah, real talk. It's a pretty good point. Just policy history. She's been on Jon Stewart. Okay, everybody. I think that's it. I want to bake some cookies or something. He didn't win because of the black vote. Won't come out. Comments are funny. Yeah, there's a reckoning in the party with regard to Israel and Palestine, no doubt about it. Younger voters really have different views on that issue than older voters. And now that there's been a war opened up in Iran, and now we've got Israel involved in that, that's going to be a thing. That's definitely going to be a thing. Okay, I think that's it. Looks like James Talarico won. It does look like he's ahead by a sizable margin, even with the Dallas votes coming in. But certainly it would be good to see in the morning what the results are. 60% of the vote. Talarico is up 51-46. Again, really two good, really seriously, two really good candidates in the same race. And Democrats should really be happy about that, even though somebody has to lose and somebody has to win, and that is the way life is. Strength is built on recovery, don't burn out. Strength is built on recovery, don't burn out. Okay, I'm Lauren Burke. I worked at ABC News, USA Today, The Hill newspaper, AP. I've worked in media and politics. I worked for 4 members of Congress, including Congressman Andre Carson, Ted Kennedy, George Mitchell, and Tom Daschle. Also worked for the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Justin Fairfax, who was railroaded in 2019. That's going to be quite a video when I put that together. And there's a bunch of stuff I've done. I worked in politics in Virginia, New York. Really been fun being on for 3 hours talking about Texas politics. That's a topic I typically don't talk this much about. Thanks again to Miss Sparks for the super chat. Thanks for being a member. Really appreciate it. It is going to be interesting to wake up in the morning and see what the details of this situation is. I'll probably do a live somewhere around 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Congrats to all the people who voted early. That turned out to be a really good idea, voting early and early voting. Wow. So obviously there's a problem in there's a problem in Dallas County, one of the most important counties of the night, to say the least, certainly for Jasmine Crockett, but just generally for Texas. The irregularities, I don't know why I can't say the word irregularities, but I can apparently after 10 o'clock. Those irregularities are going to probably be looked at all night long and into the morning, and probably in the days after. It's probably going to be some lawsuits flying, but I don't know that it's enough to really make a difference in this race. When we look at the numbers, Talarico is ahead by a pretty good amount. It's tightening up. It's 60% of the vote in. It is tightening up a little bit. We wake up in the morning and there's a flip. Wouldn't that be amazing? So anyway, please hit the like button. Thanks for everybody for joining. Agreeing with me is not required. You could be a Talarico fan. You could be a Crockett fan. It's all good. Just vote. A lot of voters out there, good participation, and that's what matters. Irregularities is trying to cheat usually, and particularly in Texas. Texas is known for its shenanigans, and that is certainly understood. We understand American history, and these things coming up again and again and again. It's like the same thing over and over again. But anyway, thanks for joining. Please hit the like button. And I really appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow talking more about this. We'll have some facts and some more data and some more clarity on what the Supreme Court in Texas did, what the judge did, and what exactly is going on and whose votes were counted. Some interesting results tonight. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining.
Somewhere. What's going on? Thank you. Are you watching now?
Yeah. No, I was watching when I left, but it's excellent. I love it. I love the traffic's blowing up. You were in Brooklyn last night. Where?
I was in Bushwick.
Okay, my grandmother's house is in Crown Heights.
Oh, yeah.
So when I saw you, I was trying to look at what the pizza place was to see where.
As soon as we got there, someone recognized the pizza place. They're like, we got to get out of here. Someone had
get out. It was great.
blown up our spot.
This show is freaking fantastic.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it, man. Love it.